Chapter 14:16. A pair of slender and plump thighs, dressed in a white spotted beast skin, reflected her ample breasts and perky buttocks. Her wheat-colored skin was sparkling and translucent, and a pair of bewitching brown eyes flickered. "You're slacking off again, Yuan Dan." Although Bai Tang's tone was reproachful, her eyes were filled with love. Yuan Dan chuckled and scratched the back of his head. "It's rare to have a guest." Seeing Bai Tang's glare, Yuan Dan covered his mouth. "I'm going to cultivate now." After saying that, he ran away. "Don't blame him. I was the one who talked to him," Lin Feng said with a smile. "Oh." Bai Tang glanced at Lin Feng expressionlessly and turned to leave. Lin Feng was also a little helpless. He said, "Senior Bai Tang." Bai Tang, who was leaving, stopped. "I'm not a senior. Just call me Bai Tang." After a pause, Bai Tang said, "What's the matter? Can you show me around the White Will tribe?" Lin Feng said with a smile. After he said that, it was a little quiet. After a long time, Bai Tang said, "Follow me." Lin Feng nodded and followed. At first, Lin Feng thought that Bai Tang hated outsiders. However, after interacting with her, he realized that was not the case. She just had an indifferent personality and did not like to talk to people she was not familiar with. 100 Orchard. We don't need to rely on the outside world. Our White Will tribe can be self-sufficient with just the fruit trees of the 100 Orchard. Silkworm Pond. This is the precious pond water taken by the tribe's white-tailed warriors from the northern continent's snow mountain. It is used to nourish and strengthen the soul. Underground demonic beast farm. Tens of thousands of demonic beasts are kept in captivity for the tribe's use to drink blood and eat meat to train their battle strength. Bai Tang brought Lin Feng around one by one. The White Will tribe was bigger than he had imagined. Although it was small, it had all the essentials. The entire White Will tribe system was very clear. The white-tailed humans in the tribe, from birth to childhood to adolescence, were all cultivated step by step. It was an eye-opener for Lin Feng. Why is the spiritual energy of heaven and earth so strange here? There is little spatial energy, but there is more elemental energy? Lin Feng asked curiously. Bai Tang replied, "Because of the cornflower tree." Cornflower tree? Lin Feng recalled the strange fruit trees he had seen in the 100 Orchard, and his eyes lit up. The cornflower tree is a unique tree life form. It can absorb spatial energy and release other types of energy. Bai Tang said, "Most human tribes will plant a large number of cornflower trees to guard against the winged men." Lin Feng suddenly understood. The winged men were naturally proficient in spatial energy and were extremely sensitive to spatial energy. However, their sensitivity to other elemental energies was lacking. The cornelian tree absorbed the spatial energy and formed a natural barrier. It's true that the winged men can't sense us, but other human tribes and the Chan River Demon tribe can still sense us, Bai Tang said, especially humans who are good at sensing. As he spoke, he shot a glance at Lin Feng, implying something. Lin Feng nodded. "So, it's not necessarily safe here." Previously, when he was chatting with the White Will chieftain, he had mentioned that the northern continent was too chaotic. Not only did the white-tailed humans have to face the winged humans, but the Chan River demon race was also a huge threat. Even the human race itself was in constant internal strife. Bai Tang nodded. "We often have to move away." There was a hint of loneliness in his voice, and Lin Feng understood that. They were born from the same roots, so there was no need to be so anxious. As they walked, they soon arrived at a bustling place. Clang! Clang! The sound of weapons clashing could be heard incessantly. Lin Feng looked over and saw a simple and crude fighting stage. Two youths were fighting at high speed. The two horns on their foreheads emitted a brilliant light. One of them held a saber in his hand, while the other held a spear. Upper-level saints. This? Lin Feng's gaze landed on the saber-wielding youth, and he was deeply shocked. His saber art was more exquisite and outstanding than his. His saber perception was extremely strong, and his realm was even higher than his. That was the peak 12th tier saber heart and a trace of the saber heavenly Tao. The saber attack contained the law of light, which was perfectly integrated into the saber art. What a simple attack! Lin Feng watched carefully, using strength and martial arts to determine victory. The two youths' comprehension of the law was not weak, but they did not use any profound meaning or secret techniques. They only used the law of light to assist their body and saber art. Focused and refined. Impressive. Lin Feng secretly sighed. He had never seen the white-tailed humans fight, and now he finally saw it. It was completely different from the way humans fought in the Milky Way galaxy. Soon, the saber-wielding youth was defeated. The spear-wielding youth's spear art was more refined. His spear art was like a rainbow, and the advantage of the spear's long attack range was fully utilized. How is it? Bai Tang looked at Lin Feng. Very impressive. Lin Feng gave a thumbs up and praise from the bottom of his heart. Bai Tang's lips curled up slightly, revealing a faint smile. Her beautiful eyes twinkled. They're the future and hope of our White Wheel tribe. Lin Feng nodded. From Yuan Dan, it could be seen that the children here had strong character and a sense of responsibility. They were willing to give up everything for the tribe. Can we go over and take a look? Lin Feng pointed to the front. Bai Tang nodded. Lin Feng smiled and walked forward. He could also benefit a lot from watching these youths fight at a close distance. These youths looked young, but in reality, they were not. According to Earth's calculation, the youngest of them was thousands of years old. The growth of the white-tailed humans was slower. 100 years was childhood, and they were stellar level. 1,000 years was youth, and they were stellar level. 10,000 years was adulthood, and they were black hole level. Born and raised on a 6-star life planet, they also had the seed of a 6-star life form buried in them. When they reached adulthood, they were black hole level powerhouses. If we really count, I'm the youngest. Lin Feng smiled his heart. He would not talk nonsense. In fact, he had only cultivated for about 200 years. However, the calculation was different in every place, and they could not be generalized. Looking closer, two youths came up to the stage to spar. One of them held a saber, and the other held a whip. Lin Feng's gaze fell on the horns on their foreheads. He sensed that the law of light was the strongest there. This should be the source of their bloodline, Lin Feng thought. But why were they called the white-tailed humans? Pursing his lips and thinking, Lin Feng paid close attention to the battle on the stage. It was really amazing. Many saints and even holy kings in the Milky Way could not comprehend the heavenly path, but every youth here knew it. A trace of the heavenly path of the saber, and a trace of the heavenly path of the whip. The battle this time was more intense than before. Lin Feng's eyes were wide open. Suddenly, the whip-wielding youth's tail lashed out, turning into an extremely bright whip shadow, and lashed out fiercely. Combined with the heavenly path of the whip, it directly shattered the saber of the youth. The strongest of our white-tailed humans is the white tail behind us. It's invincible. Bai Tang's voice sounded beside Lin Feng. Chapter 14:17. It's a natural weapon. It could be as soft and sturdy as a whip or as hard and ferocious as a chain. Our tribe's warriors can learn how to use their tails to enhance their combat strength after they reach adulthood. Lin Feng nodded. At that time, their bodies would be considered fully grown. He is one of the strongest genius warriors in the tribe, by Jing Xian, said Bai Tang. There was deep admiration in her eyes. He passed the tribe's trial before he was even a child. He is a true genius. Lin Feng was tempted. Passing the tribe's trial was equivalent to possessing Chaos Whole immortal combat strength and could leave the tribe to train. However, this was only combat strength, not strength. No wonder the blade-wielding youth was defeated so quickly, said Lin Feng. Bai Tang glanced at him and calmly said, He whose strength is not bad. He almost passed the tribe's trial. He has the strongest fighting spirit among this batch of youths. He is the one who cultivates the most diligently and desperately. It's just that his aptitude is slightly lacking. Aptitude was too important. It determined a warrior's cultivation speed and the upper limit of their cultivation. Lin Feng looked at the defeated youth. He held the broken saber in his hand with a confused expression. A saber user's saber was their life and everything. When the saber was broken, the heart would die. Although he looked calm, his heart was in turmoil. On the contrary, the genius youth named by Jing Xian was smiling as he accepted everyone's praise. He was like a proud son of heaven. Jing Xuan's biggest problem is his arrogance. He is too easily proud and impetuous, said Bai Tang slowly. As the instructor of these children, she knew the strengths and weaknesses of each child like the back of her hand. It's normal. Lin Feng smiled. What was a genius? Geniuses had the right to be arrogant. You're also a warrior, right? Bai Tang suddenly asked. Lin Feng was slightly surprised and nodded. He naturally knew what Bai Tang meant. The meaning of warrior in the White Wheel tribe was chaos whole, immortal combat strength. In other words, one could pass the tribe's trial and be given the surname Bai. Bai Tang's eyes flashed as she said, in that case, are you willing to go on stage and spar? Lin Feng was stunned. With him, Lin Feng pointed at Bai Jingxian. Among these youths, he was the only one who was a warrior. And Bai Tang replied, sure. Lin Feng replied without hesitation. Just as Bai Tang nodded, Lin Feng suddenly said, but I have a condition. Bai Tang's brows slightly wrinkled. Lin Feng stared at Bai Tang and said, if I win, it's your turn. Bai Tang's beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light. She felt a strong challenge from Lin Feng. He was not joking. Bai Tang then said, you should know that I am an immortal chaos whole powerhouse, while you are only a dark matter powerhouse. Bai Tang had long seen through Lin Feng's real situation. However, he still couldn't see through his strength. Lin Feng smiled and walked forward. Only by challenging the strong can one improve their strength. Although she had only seen a portion of Bai Jingxuan's strength, it was enough to steal a leopard. As the strongest saint in the Milky Way, although Lin Feng wasn't 100% confident, he was still 99% confident. He wasn't very interested in such a battle. However, sparring with Bai Tang was different. Although she was a woman, her strength was second to none in the White Wheel tribe. Jing Xian, come on, Jing Xian, don't let the White Wheel tribe down. You must win. Amidst the respectful shouts of the youths, Bai Jingxian jumped onto the stage with an imposing appearance. His white tail wrapped around his waist, and two small pointed horns on his head flickered with the law of light energy. There was some arrogance in his eyes, and he didn't care about Lin Feng at all. He was the strongest genius in the White Wheel tribe. He could even defeat some immortal chaos whole powerhouses at the same level as dark matter powerhouses. Not only did he have extremely strong talent, but he also had excellent combat senses. He was the future hope of the White Wheel tribe. Lin Feng was already on the stage. He stood calmly and looked at Bai Jingxian. He knew Bai Tang's intention. No matter who won or lost in this battle, the White Wheel tribe would be in an invincible position. If Bai Jingxian won, the White Wheel tribe's momentum would be strengthened. The youth's morale would soar, and they would train harder. If Bai Jingxian lost, it would be a wake-up call to him. Using a loss to warn a genius was also very beneficial. Below the stage, Bai Tang crossed her arms and looked at the two of them. She wanted to know, the most elite genius of the White Wheel tribe versus the genius of the Milky Way galaxy, who is also a dark matter powerhouse. Who would be stronger? White Wheel tribe by Jingxian. The whip in Bai Jingxuan's hand seemed to be made from the tendons of a demon beast. Milky Way Earth, Lin Feng. Lin Feng bowed slightly. Amidst the cheers of the White Wheel tribe, the two of them quickly started the battle after a brief introduction. Bai Jingxian, who wanted to win glory for the White Wheel tribe, started off like a fierce tiger coming down the mountain. He attacked as fast as lightning. The sharp horn on his head condensed the law of light, which was almost perfect for Bai Jingxuan's whip technique. The long whip in his hand flashed with a terrifying cold light as he lashed it out. It was like an agile white dragon as it attacked Lin Feng. The advantage of the whip was that it was soft, shapeless, and had a long attack range. However, its weakness was also very obvious. Its attack power was weaker, and the transmission of power was weaker. However, Bai Jingxian was smart enough to use the law of light to make up for these disadvantages. Among the youths of the White Wheel tribe, he was indeed the strongest. He was unrivaled. However, his opponent this time was Lin Feng, who had been through hundreds of battles. That was the battle power that he had honed through countless battles. It was not something that a greenhorn like Bai Jingxian could compare with. In terms of realm, Bai Jingxian was better, but not by much. His heart of the whip had reached the pinnacle of the 12th layer, and he had comprehended a bit of the heavenly path of the whip. Lin Feng's heart of the blade was at the 12th layer, and he had also comprehended a bit of the heavenly path of the blade. However, Lin Feng's blade technique was clearly more exquisite and stronger. Lin Feng's strongest point was his unparalleled strength, which was close to the limit of a dark matter expert. The difference in weapons alone was enough to determine victory. Boom! The soul-severing blade of Black Hell revealed its brilliance, raising the ability of the Law of Dark Demon to a whole new level. Although Bai Jingxian used his talent to drive the Law of Light, it was far inferior to Lin Feng's peak chaotic dark treasure. The difference was too great. Thick black fog surrounded the soul-severing blade. Lin Feng completely crushed Bai Jingxian in terms of aura and strength. Bai Jingxuan's handsome face was extremely pale. He had already lost all his courage in a head-on battle. How can this be? Bai Jingxian still wanted to counterattack with his white tail, but the blade light in front of him and the fierce aura of the human youth completely suppressed him. Bai Jingxian was defeated easily. Bang! Bai Jingxian fell off the battle stage. The youths of the White Wool tribe were all dumbfounded. Chapter 14:18. Their confidence from before had turned into a joke. The group of youths couldn't believe it and stood rooted to the ground. The strongest of them all, Bai Jingxian, who was already known as a warrior, was actually defeated by this human youth in a single exchange. Too fast. It was so fast that they didn't even have time to react before the battle ended. Many pairs of eyes looked at Lin Feng on the stage. Some were shocked, some were unwilling, and some were angry. Lin Feng's action was equivalent to showing off his power to the White Will tribe, so they were naturally unwilling to accept it. Bullying the weak, it's not fair. That's right, your weapon is more powerful than his. This battle doesn't count. Let's do it again. After all, they were still youths, so Lin Feng didn't take it to heart. Furthermore, defeating Bai Jingxian was nothing to him, so he didn't take it to heart. Just as the other youth said, this was a competition of bullying the weak. His target was never Bai Jingxian, but swoosh. Lin Feng looked directly at Bai Tang below the stage. A sharp light flashed in his eyes, just like the blade in his hand. From the beginning, Bai Tang was his target. A pair of deep brown eyes flickered. Bai Tang was truly shocked in his heart. She did think that Bai Jingxian might lose. After all, there was always someone better than him. However, she didn't expect him to lose so miserably. It was like an adult bullying a child, and Bai Jingxian was defeated in just 2 or 3 moves. Lin Feng's strength was much stronger than she expected. To him, this is actually a good thing. Looking at the stage, Bai Jingxian, who was in a daze, seemed to have fallen from the clouds. The light of the genius had completely shattered. As someone who had experienced it, Bai Tang knew that sometimes failure was more important than success. Only by standing up after falling would one become stronger. A true powerhouse must have fallen countless times, and each time, he would climb back up unyieldingly. This human youth has such a strong will to battle. Bai Tang felt Lin Feng's gaze. That was a real challenge, and she couldn't refuse. With a slight sigh, Bai Tang's vigorous figure instantly landed on the stage. Uproar. The youths were boiling with excitement. Sister Bai Tang, help us regain our dignity, Big Sister Bai Tang. Our Bai Lun tribe is not a pushover. Bai Tang raised her hand, and in a split second, all the youths quietened down. Bai Tang's beautiful eyes swept across all the youths as she slowly said, "If you lose, you have to lose with dignity." That was a very fair battle. Jingxian lost because of his own strength. There's no other reason. Don't be a frog in a well. There are many people in the universe who are stronger than us. We can't be complacent. Do you hear me? Yes, Big Sister Bai Tang. The youths replied in unison. It could be seen that Bai Tang had an extraordinary position in the hearts of these youths. Lin Feng looked at Bai Tang. From her body, he could see some of the qualities of the White Wool tribesman and the character of a warrior. Lin Feng didn't have the slightest bit of confidence when facing this expert whose strength was above his own, but this was actually better. Only by challenging yourself can you improve. Come. After Bai Tang educated the youths, he looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked at Bai Tang. No weapons. Bai Tang shook her head. I already have the strongest weapon. All right. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He naturally knew what Bai Tang meant. The strongest weapons of the white-tailed human race were on them. In an instant, the black hell soul-severing saber vibrated, and Lin Feng's battle intent rapidly rose. Blazing dark magic power condensed, and the divine might of a peak high-grade chaos profound treasure appeared. The youths below all gasped. The power of the laws was even stronger than before. Lightning beast saber technique. Lin Feng attacked, and the enhanced dark magic that was close to greater mastery caused his eyes to turn blood red. His battle intent and killing intent soared several times. At this moment, it was as if he had transformed into Shura. Is this true strength? Bai Tang's beautiful eyes flashed. Facing Lin Feng's attack, she did not retreat. Instead, she advanced. Seeing that the blade technique was like a rainbow, chopping down from above, Bai Tang's figure suddenly turned illusory and dodged it with a slight flash. Oh! Bai Tang was startled. The saber technique from before was a feint. The black aura in front of her was dense, and the saber had already arrived. Chi! A shrill sound broke through the air as Bai Tang's slender white tail suddenly swung out. It was incomparably tough as it met Lin Feng's saber head-on. When the two collided, Bai Tang's heart trembled, and the powerful force caused her to rapidly retreat. How could his strength be so strong? Bai Tang was somewhat shocked. Her physical strength far exceeded that of an ordinary human. This ordinary-looking human in front of her was several times stronger than her. One had to know that she was a Chaos Whole Immortal. What a terrifying innate ability. Lin Feng's shock was no less than Bai Tang's. This was the first time he had seen the power of a tail whip. Its extremely powerful impact didn't seem like a whip at all, but more like a saber. A saber that was comparable to his black hell, soul-severing saber. Although the tail whip didn't have any special ability, it was easy to use and extremely easy to control. Overall, it wasn't inferior to a saber. Moreover, the tail could be strengthened as one's strength increased. Good. Lin Feng stepped into the air and attacked Bai Tang. At this moment, the blood in his body seemed to be boiling, filled with challenge. Bai Tang's strength was very strong. Pung, pung, pung. The continuous battle left the youths below dumbfounded. They even stopped breathing, afraid that they would miss something. Lin Feng's saber force was powerful and vigorous. Now, they knew why Bai Jingxian was defeated. Just as Sister Bai Tang said, there was an absolute difference in strength. This young man, called Lin Feng, was even capable of being on par with Big Sister Bai Tang. Too strong. Bai Tang's face turned white. The energy of the horn on her head intensified. Her brown eyes were as deep as a hole. Suddenly, Bai Tang's aura increased dramatically. Bloodline power. She was preparing to end the battle. Sunglow burial wheel. Lin Feng also began to use his Chaos Whole treasure. Compared to the white-tailed human, he had his own advantages. He could control the Chaos Whole treasure. Not only could it change his strength, but it could also increase his combat strength. 12 strange, ancient wheels glowing with sun glow were linked together. The light flashed, and the attack method was exquisite and strange. However, when Bai Tang unleashed her full strength, her strength increased by more than twofold. Her white tail was like a python retreating. The pressure on Lin Feng was even greater. However, what truly shocked Lin Feng was Bai Tang's saber art realm. Second level heavenly Tao of saber. Lin Feng raised his saber to block. He was deeply shocked. An unimaginable saber art realm. Her white tail, which was comparable to a peak Chaos Whole treasure, was condensed from the law of light and was endowed with an even stronger heavenly Tao of saber. Her combat strength was extremely terrifying. Instantly, Lin Feng was at a huge disadvantage. Whoosh! His eyes flashed with a stubborn light. Lin Feng had always been a person who refused to admit defeat. Even when facing an opponent who was much stronger than him, he still used his trump card. Chapter 1419. Qi. The two pure, white demonic claws on Lin Feng's shoulders suddenly appeared. Each claw had 3 fingers. The terrifying and strange white color looked like wolf fangs when they landed on Zhu Yu's black armor. Nether Nightmare Demonic Claw. At this moment, it suddenly appeared and blocked Bai Tang's sharp white tail attack. There was the sound of metal clashing. This supreme-grade chaos profound treasure was incomparably tough, and the dark demon element had a special power. Although Bai Tang had the upper hand in a head-on collision, his white tail had an inexplicable black color. The dark demon's power seeped into the white tail, making it impossible to defend against. It would have been fine if it was a weapon, but the white tail was a part of Bai Tang's body. The Nether Nightmare Demonic Claw's special power immediately appeared. At Lin Feng's current strength level, a supreme-grade Chaos Profound Treasure was not inferior to a peak Chaos Profound Treasure. Swish! Bai Tang hurriedly retreated. A wisp of black fog appeared on his pale face, but it was suppressed in an instant. At this moment, Lin Feng had also landed. The great momentum had injured him, but this wave of attacks had given him precious time to catch his breath. Black light flashed in his eyes, and a bloody light appeared. Lin Feng clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Qi! Qi! The 2 Nether Nightmare Demonic Claws on his shoulders suddenly stabbed into them. A bloody light bloomed and instantly turned blood red, making the Nether Nightmare Demonic Claws seem to come alive. A terrifying power spread out from Lin Feng's body. Nether Nightmare Possession. The demonic claws stabbed into his shoulder muscles, and the blood instantly fused. Lin Feng roared, his veins popping like earthworms. His aura suddenly became evil and terrifying. The domineering figure of the Nether Nightmare Demonic Claw descended behind him. The black hell, soul-severing saber in his hand, also let out a high-pitched cry. Dark Demon Element. At this moment, Lin Feng seemed to have transformed into a demon. His comprehension of the Dark Demon Law had skyrocketed and had long surpassed the Greater Mastery stage. Even compared to Bai Tang's comprehension of the Law of Light, it was superior. Again, Lin Feng roared as he fiercely brandished his saber. The saber intent was cold. It was less clean and free, and more decisive and murderous. Even the lightning beast's appearance seemed to have turned black. However, the lightning beast saber technique did not weaken. Instead, it became several times stronger. Dark Demon Element activated. Devour. The black hell, soul-severing saber tore at Bai Tang crazily. Lin Feng used the dark magic law to increase the power of the saber to another level. His entire body was immersed in the darkness, and in an instant, he engaged in a fierce battle with Bai Tang. Below, the teenagers of the White Wool tribe were already dumbfounded. A young man whose strength was only at the level of a dark matter expert was actually evenly matched with their sister Bai Tang. Sister Bai Tang was an immortal chaotic hole expert. Amazing! How can there be such a powerful dark matter expert? What a dense dark devil Qi. He must be a martial artist who has been through many battles. No wonder Bai Jingxian wasn't his match. Even big sister Bai Tang was at a disadvantage. While everyone was discussing fervently, Bai Jingxian had already woken up. She stared blankly at the brilliant battle, thinking back to how arrogant she was before, how she didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. She felt her cheeks turn red. She wanted nothing more than to find a hole to hide in. There was always someone better than you. The mediocre youth, Yihu, who had been defeated by Bai Jingxian, looked at Lin Feng. The saber in his hand trembled slightly. From that black figure, he seemed to see a shadow of himself in the past. At the same time, he also saw himself in the future. One day, I want to be as strong as him. Yihu gritted his teeth and secretly made up his mind. What was a momentary defeat? Everyone's eyes focused. Lin Feng's blood was boiling. He could finally fight to his heart's content. Facing an opponent of equal strength, he could display his strengths to the best of his ability. He didn't take advantage of Bai Tang. Bai Tang didn't use a weapon, and he didn't use spatial energy either. Again, Lin Feng's saber became more and more powerful as the battle went on. The dark devil laws of greater mastery and above were deeply engraved in his mind. With the dark hell, soul-severing saber and the nether devil claw, the laws had already surpassed greater mastery. Although Lin Feng couldn't comprehend it, it had already left a seed in his heart. In such an intense battle, it was easier to comprehend and break through. For example, saber techniques. Almost every teenager here was filled with saber heart, sword heart, and whip heart. The limit of the 12th level. Lin Feng, who had already reached the 12th stage of minute subtlety, was only a step away from the limit. The vigorous power, the intense fighting spirit, made up for the gap between Lin Feng's realms. At the same time, it allowed him to deeply comprehend the realms above the heavenly Tao. Bai Tang's tail whip had the embryonic form of the second level of saber heavenly Tao. One saber against one saber. With the imperial black armor, Lin Feng's defense and endurance were a level higher. When they were evenly matched, he gradually turned the tables. As the battle progressed, he started to suppress Bai Tang. How is this possible? Bai Tang became more and more shocked. She had thought that the youth in front of her could be very strong, but she didn't think that he would be strong to this extent. Even if she gave him a weapon, Bai Tang had full confidence. She didn't think that it would end up like this. Right now, she couldn't advance or retreat. She had already understood the moves of both sides. If she wanted to win, she had to use her saber. But this was slapping her own face. Even if she won, it wouldn't be honorable. But if this continued, the loser would be her. Lin Feng's endurance was too strong. If she lost, she would lose not only herself, but also the future hope of the White Will tribe. It would be a disgrace for the entire White Wheel tribe to be defeated by a dark matter expert. The morale of the white-tailed youths below the arena would definitely plummet. What should I do? Bai Tang's face was pale and ugly. She hesitated, and even her movements became rusty. Pung! A rebounding force came from in front of her. That majestic and oppressive aura was exhausted. Bai Tang was slightly stunned. She saw Lin Feng land on the ground. His black and blood-red eyes flashed and returned to normal in an instant. Senior strength is extraordinary. Lin Feng humbly admits defeat. Thank you for your guidance. Lin Feng smiled and bowed. Lin Feng knew his etiquette, when he should advance and when he should retreat. It was stupid to show off in someone else's territory. It wasn't his reputation, but the anger of others. Moreover, he had benefited a lot from this battle. He should stop when he was ahead. If he did Bai Tang a favor today, he would get more in the future. Bai Tang bit her lips. The sharp horn on her forehead flashed white. Her white tail moved and wrapped around her waist. Her plump peaks undulated. She nodded. Thank you for letting me win. She had to accept Lin Feng's favor. Bai Tang finally relaxed. She glanced at Lin Feng and nodded gently. Lin Feng smiled. His step back had gained Bai Tang's approval. And clap, clap, clap. The clapping sounds were loud and clear. The youths of the White Wool tribe were clapping excitedly. Witnessing this wonderful battle with their own eyes made them excited. They looked at Lin Feng in a completely different way. It was worship for the strong. The White Wool tribe valued strength and strong people. Chapter 14:20. Lin Feng had won the hearts of the youths of the White Wheel tribe with his strength and demeanor. After the battle with Bai Tang, many youths surrounded Lin Feng and chattered incessantly. They took it upon themselves to revitalize the White Wheel tribe and revere the strong. At the same time, they were very curious about the outside world. Lin Feng answered them one by one with a smile. He did not expect that his modesty would gain him so much popularity. Although these youths were young, they were not weak. Each of them was a dark matter expert, especially in the heavenly path of the blade and heavenly path of the sword. They were superior to him. Not far away, Bai Tang also answered the youth's doubts with a smile. Her beautiful eyes glanced at Lin Feng with mixed feelings. She had lost the battle just now. He's really strong. Bai Tang could not help but exclaim in her heart. She had never seen a dark matter expert so strong. He was more powerful than many immortal chaos holes. Are all the warriors in the Milky Way like this? Bai Tang frowned slightly. She had always thought that the Milky Way galaxy was nothing more than that. Not only her, but all the powerhouses in the North Continent thought the same. What kind of powerhouses could emerge from a place where the strongest powerhouses were only at the pinnacle of the immortal chaos hole? However, reality slapped her hard, suffocating her. If Lin Feng had not given her a way out today, the White Wool tribe would have been humiliated. Yes, Bai Tang nodded slightly. She did not like to owe others favors. After the battle with Bai Tang, Lin Feng quickly integrated into the White Wool tribe. Every day, he exchanged pointers with the youths and sometimes talked about some secrets of the Tongqi continent. He talked about the rise and fall of the white-tailed tribe, the domineering winged tribe, the grievances between the three winged rulers, and so on. He became more and more familiar with them. Later, even Enai Xian joined. With Lin Feng's recommendation and Enai Xian's beauty and gentleness, she was smoothly accepted by the youths of the White Wheel tribe. Enai Xian, who had been suppressed by the responsibility of being the saintess of the protector, became more and more cheerful. Her smile was like a blooming flower. To her, this resurrection was a new life given to her by the heavens. Universe, Sacred Pillar Palace? Lin Feng asked in surprise. Yes, that's where my saber skills were enlightened and improved. Yihu nodded heavily. He, who had lost to Bai Jingxian that day, now viewed Lin Feng as his idol. His pair of thick eyebrows and big eyes were bright and full of expression. How? Lin Feng asked curiously. By relying on it. One of the tigers pointed at the horn on his head. That was left behind by our ancestors. Only when the white horn resonates with the holy pillar can we enter the hall of the holy pillar. Lin Feng nodded. You must have the bloodline of the white-tailed human tribe. One tiger nodded. Each of our clansmen can only enter 3 times in their lifetime. The first time is when they are young and enlightened. The second time is when they are young and refined. The third time is when they pass the tribe's trial and succeed. As if he was immersed in his memories, Yihu murmured, The first time I was enlightened. I chose the saber and broke through the 7th level of saber heart. The second time I was refined, my saber heart reached the limit of the 12th level and comprehended a trace of the heavenly Tao of saber. The third time, I will definitely be able to step into the threshold of the heavenly Tao of saber. One tiger clenched his fists tightly, his eyes filled with determination. His bloodline wasn't strong, and his other talents were ordinary. The only thing he was proud of was his saber talent. Among his peers, his saber art was definitely one of the best. After comprehending the heavenly Tao of saber, he had almost reached the threshold. Threshold? Lin Feng murmured softly. The saber art that Bai Tang used had reached the threshold of the heavenly Tao of saber. She was really strong. His strength was stronger than hers, and his saber art was more exquisite than hers. However, his saber art realm was completely suppressed by hers. If not for the advantage of the Chaos Hole mystic treasure, it would have been impossible for him to defeat her. There are thousands of great Tao, and each has its own direction. Lin Feng knew very well. The heavenly Tao had many directions. Comprehending the laws was one of them. It was a path that humans and other races with high perceptivity often took. As for the fiends, they often took the heavenly Tao of strength. Strength could defeat everything. This was also a resplendent heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao of saber was one of the heavenly Taos that belonged to the power pyramid. Comprehending a trace of it would give one the strength of a dark matter expert. Stepping through the threshold would give one the strength of an immortal chaos hole. When a heavenly Tao first arrived, one would become a black domain master. I cultivate both the nomological heavenly Tao and the heavenly Tao of strength, so I'm almost invincible among dark matter experts. Lin Feng was very clear about his current position and the path he was taking. The nomological heavenly Tao was compatible with his bloodline. He had achieved initial success in the 2 nomological heavenly Taos, Light Speed and Dark Fiend. The heavenly Tao of strength strengthened his body to the extreme. He had comprehended a trace of the heavenly Tao of Saber. It was precisely because of the combination of the two that his combat strength was astonishing. The nomological heavenly Tao. Now that my understanding of the Dark Fiend nomological laws is much clearer, I believe that I will soon gain some insights. Lin Feng thought to himself. As for the heavenly Tao of strength, Lin Feng was a little unfamiliar with this heavenly Tao. He didn't know where to go. Let's walk and see. Perhaps we will get an answer here. Lin Feng smiled and looked at First Tiger. Come, let's continue. All right. First Tiger was extremely excited. He benefited a lot from being able to spar with an expert like Lin Feng. To Lin Feng, First Tiger's saber technique realm was above his. He had also gained a lot by suppressing his strength and sparring with First Tiger with saber techniques. Although cultivation was important, actual combat often improved faster, especially saber techniques. Every day in the White Wheel tribe, Lin Feng's life was abnormally fulfilling. He cultivated with twice the result with half the effort. From time to time, he would hone his saber techniques and comprehend the Dark Fiend nomological laws. His relationship with the youths of the White Wheel tribe became closer. Lin Feng was able to name every single one of the youths here. They were very simple and kind. Every one of them had a firm dream in their hearts to revitalize the white-tailed tribe. Clang! Clang! Lin Feng and First Tiger saber techniques were like rainbows, their battle intent radiating in all directions. The two sabers condensed a unique aura, but they both revealed the domineering aura of the saber wielder. In terms of realm, First Tiger was stronger, but the power of his saber techniques was inferior to Lin Feng's, even if Lin Feng suppressed his strength. They were evenly matched. Every time they clashed, the two of them had different feelings. One tiger's saber technique and fighting experience increased with each passing day. Lin Feng's saber technique also gained an epiphany from the repeated clashes, and he learned from the experiences he had during the fights. Lin Feng could already see the end of the path of Saberheart. Whoosh! In an instant, the soul-severing saber in Lin Feng's hand shone brightly, and the saber that had been slashing down on the horizon suddenly descended. Lin Feng's Saberheart had finally taken the last step and reached the limit. 12-tier Saberheart. The limit. Bang! The tiger was repelled, and its eyes were filled with shock. Not far away, Bai Tang had arrived at some point. Her pair of bright eyes looked straight at Lin Feng. Their eyes met, and Bai Tang's red lips moved slightly. I'll take you to a place. Chapter 1421. Following Bai Tang to the lower level, Lin Feng was also curious. The White Wheel tribe was divided into two levels. The upper level was where the tribe members lived and cultivated. The lower level was where all kinds of unique areas, such as the Hunter Fruit Garden, the Silkworm Pond, the underground demonic beast field, etc. Lin Feng had been to the lower level before. This was not the hidden place of the White Wheel tribe. This is the Universe Saint Pillar Palace. Lin Feng's eyes were bright as he looked at the ordinary stone hall in front of him. He had glanced at it previously, and Bai Tang did not introduce it. Come in. Bai Tang did not say much and stepped in directly. Lin Feng nodded and followed in. He was not afraid that Bai Tang would harm him. After interacting with the people of the White Wheel tribe, he knew that this was a very simple tribe. They were kind, had a fighting heart, and did not have any complicated thoughts. As soon as he entered, Lin Feng's heart trembled. The surrounding aura suddenly changed. Layers of strange and powerful pressure spread out and enveloped him. What entered his sight was a huge stone hall. Huge stone pillars supported the stone hall. In the center of the stone hall, there were 8 pure white stone pillars, shining with dazzling light. Universe Saint Pillar. These words suddenly appeared in Lin Feng's mind. Bai Tang did not look at him. Instead, she continued to walk forward. Her target was the center of the stone hall. There were 8 pure white stone pillars with strange energy. The Universe Saint Pillar Palace was made by the ancestors of the White-Tail tribe with all their energy. It was to benefit the descendants. Bai Tang stopped. Her beautiful figure with white spots on her bee skin had a trace of respect. Her expression was full of joy. The 8 universe Saint Pillars are the Sword Saint Pillar, Saber Saint Pillar, Whip Saint Pillar, Spear Saint Pillar, Claw Saint Pillar, Halberd Saint Pillar, Axe Saint Pillar, Staff Saint Pillar, and Fist Saint Pillar. As expected, Lin Feng looked over. Between the pure white stone pillars, he could vaguely see a saber, a sword, a staff, a whip, an axe, and other weapons. The energy of each saint pillar was almost the same. They all had different feelings. The saber was domineering, the sword was honorable, the axe was destructive, the claw was sharp. That was the most basic Tao of weapons, the clearest understanding. Take it. Light flashed in by Tang's hand. Suddenly, 2 strange white horns appeared. He handed them over. These are the white horns of one of the descendants of the white-tailed human clan. Pausing for a moment, Bai Tang did not continue. He looked at Lin Feng. Since you have comprehended the laws of light and have mistakenly barged into the White Wheel tribe, you could be considered to be fated with the white-tailed humans. Use the laws of light to stimulate the white horn energy, and you can enter the heavenly pillar to comprehend and cultivate. Just this once. Don't do it again. After Bai Tang finished speaking, he turned around and left. His voice was righteous as he said, I have repaid the favor I owe you. Hua, a fragrant wind blew past, and Bai Tang's figure disappeared. Lin Feng was left alone with 2 white horns. He was surprised. He didn't expect that his kindness that day would be rewarded like this. According to Tiger, even they could only enter the Heaven and Earth Saint Pillar Palace 3 times in their lifetime. This was the treasured land of the White Wheel tribe. The people of the White Wheel tribe are indeed pure and kind. Lin Feng sighed. If it was any empire in the Milky Way, they would not do this. That was the treasured land of the tribe. Lin Feng smiled as a warm current flowed in his heart. He had mistakenly barged into the White Wheel tribe. He did have some fate with the white-tailed humans. Lin Feng's gaze landed on the 8 sparkling and translucent sacred pillars of heaven and earth. He heaved a sigh of relief and then held the white horn. Hua! His eyes lit up. The use of the speed of light law was extremely compatible with the white horn. Thinking about it, its previous owner must have also comprehended the speed of light law. Although Bai Tang wanted to say something, he knew that the white horn's owner must have died an unnatural death. Most likely, he was killed by the winged humans. Shua! Bursts of light were released from the white horn. It was perfectly compatible with Lin Feng's body. Almost instantly, one of the heavenly pillars in front of him lit up and resonated with each other. As expected, Lin Feng smiled. Unsurprisingly, it was the blade of heavenly pillars that resonated with him. Although he did not know anything about the heavenly pillars and only heard some information from Yi Hu, this did not prevent Lin Feng from entering. The energy released by the white horn was connected with the heavenly pillars like a bridge. In an instant, Lin Feng entered. Lin Feng felt that he was on solid ground. The white fog in front of him covered his vision, but it dissipated in an instant. Feeling his own existence, his talent spirit seemed to be touched. In this unknown world, there seemed to be something that was resonating with his talent spirit. It was time. Lin Feng knew very well. In the vast universe, the black hole represented space, and the white hole represented time. He heard from Yi Hu that after entering the heavenly pillars, time almost stopped. In other words, there was no concept of time here. It was like a cycle going round and round. It did not really stop, but the area controlled by the laws of time. Lin Feng understood and was secretly amazed. To be able to create such a treasure, the ancestors of the white-tailed tribe were obviously not ordinary. It will consume a little soul power. Lin Feng felt it. The laws of space corresponded to the body. The laws of time corresponded to the soul. Although the consumption was small, he could feel it. The stronger the soul, the longer I can stay here. Lin Feng smiled. With his strength, the time he could stay here would not be less than the warriors who passed the trial and entered for the 3rd time. But it was not important how long he stayed. What was important was what he could gain here. Lin Feng walked forward and spread his perception. The whole world was filled with the domineering aura of the saber. When he closed his eyes, he could feel the heavenly Tao of saber. It was as if someone was waving a saber in the void. But he could not see it. Is my heavenly Tao of saber too low? Lin Feng murmured in his heart and continued forward. He was not worried that he could not find any opportunities. Every teenager of the White Wheel tribe who entered could find and break through. Of course, he was no exception. Soon, Lin Feng saw the first treasure land. It was a saber tomb hidden in a sea of clouds. Countless treasured sabers were inserted into huge stone slabs. Even the weakest one surpassed a peak chaos dark treasure. Lin Feng took a deep breath and entered the saber tomb, deeply comprehending it. As he comprehended, his saber heart beat even more excitedly and was extremely saturated. Lin Feng, who was standing at the limit of the 12th saber heart, could vaguely see the light of the other shore. Heavenly Tao of saber. In the Milky Way, one would usually comprehend the heavenly Tao of saber after comprehending the saber heart to the limit. Lin Feng's talent was obviously more outstanding. He had already comprehended a trace of the heavenly Tao of saber long ago. This time, I have to step through the threshold of the heavenly Tao of saber. Lin Feng left the saber tomb. The saber tomb increased the weight of the saber heart. It was not very useful to him now. If he guessed correctly, there should be more strange treasure land ahead. Chapter 1422. Outside the universe, St. Pillar Hall. Bai Tang stood outside the hall quietly. Her beautiful face had a tinge of calmness. Since she was the one who brought Lin Feng into the universe St. Pillar Hall, she naturally had to take responsibility. After all, Lin Feng wasn't from the white-tailed human tribe. I wonder how long he can stay in there. Bai Tang glanced at the shining saber St. Pillar. The White Wool tribesmen usually spend a day in there for the first time, half a month for the second time, and about a year for the third time. The stronger the soul power, the longer they could stay in there. Of course, this day was a day outside and not a day inside the Heaven and Earth St. Pillar. In the Heaven and Earth St. Pillar, one day was equivalent to at least 100 years. Bai Tang closed her eyes and entered a state of cultivation. At this moment, Lin Feng found the second treasure land after leaving the saber tomb. It was a vast desert. The wind howled, blowing the sand into the air and condensing into sand shadows in the void. As the sand drifted, it contained the truth of heaven and earth. The tyranny of the wind combined with the sand. It was simple, but it was deeply imprinted in one's mind. While Lin Feng's eyes moved. As his body moved, the sand particles gathered to form a human figure. The tyrannical wind became the saber in his hand. Lin Feng quickly entered the state. Although he didn't have a saber in his hand, his body movements contained saber intent. As he waved his saber again and again, he faintly merged with the desert. Chi, chi, chi. A black figure slowly passed through the yellow sand that filled the sky. Lin Feng's eyes were bright and spirited. He had already comprehended the true meaning of this sandstorm saber technique. Although he had not grasped the saber technique, it was not important whether he grasped it or not. The saber art wasn't strong. It was a guided saber art. The purpose of practicing, it was to let one understand the saber heavenly Tao. He had already reached that level. It seems like it's a step-by-step process. Lin Feng gradually understood. It was no wonder that Yihu entered twice and broke through one level each time. The first level was the saber heart, which came from the saber tomb. The second level was the sandstorm saber art, which came from the desert. Then the third level, the threshold of the heavenly Tao. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. After walking forward for an unknown period of time, they finally passed through the desert and arrived at a violently trembling volcanic region. The numerous volcanoes were like fire-spitting monsters as they emitted terrifying magma. Everywhere the magma passed, everything was burned into ashes and turned into nothingness. There were countless volcanoes, and each volcano was different. Some were tall, some were short, some were flat, some were shooting high into the sky, and some were shooting out like heavenly maidens scattering flowers. Lin Feng stood in the magma field, unaffected by the magma. His eyes were fixed on the volcanoes in front of him. His heart was completely immersed in it. It was very similar to the sandstorm saber technique. The volcanic eruption here was also a kind of guided saber technique. Lin Feng stood there quietly as he watched the volcano erupt again and again. Every time it was a cycle. For example, when the saber technique was executed once, it would transform into a volcanic eruption. The saber technique seemed to have been slowed down by more than tens of thousands of times. Moreover, the details were completely magnified, making it easier to observe and comprehend. Volcano saber technique. Shadows appeared in Lin Feng's mind, but it was difficult to form them. He knew that this was because the realm of the saber technique was not enough. Just like in the boundless desert earlier, he had grasped a trace of the heavenly way of the saber, so he could simulate the true meaning of the sandstorm saber technique. But here, the realm difference was too great. Therefore, the saber technique could not be formed. Chi. Lin Feng's hands moved rapidly as his feet moved. His eyes never left the volcano. Every time he saw it, he would turn it into an action. He constantly experimented and pondered, again and again. If he felt it, Lin Feng was delighted. If he did not feel it, he would frown from time to time. In this world where there was no one, Lin Feng slowly comprehended the saber technique without any distractions. The passage of time was like a drizzle of rain, extremely slow. In a quiet valley in the North Continent, cornelian trees were planted all around, greatly weakening and sealing the spatial energy. There were 17 powerhouses gathered in the valley. There were humans, demons, and monsters, but they were not from the Tang-Chi continent. They were powerhouses from the Milky Way. Everyone gathered here today and survived. This proves that you have some understanding of this place. The one who spoke was a silver-haired man with red eyelids. His evil figure had a demonic aura, but he looked like a human. I Ching, a super powerhouse from the Vile Empire. He was a hybrid of human and demon and ranked 24th on the Milky Way Sage King list. His strength was quite terrifying. This is an unknown world. Legend has it that there are 6 winged men who are stronger than Sage Kings. Sage King He Lu said in a deep voice. It's not just the winged men. There are other human races here, such as the Chan River Demon race. They all have masters of the dark region, a figure in black said. This is the Tang-Chi continent. We are in the North Continent, an extremely chaotic place, an old man with a wrinkled face said. As soon as he said that, it caused a heated discussion. Sage King Feng Xiu seems to know a lot. I Ching's red eyelids twitched as his evil voice sounded. I just happened to enter Yurin City before, so I know a little more than you all. Sage King Feng Xiu was the old man with one foot in the grave. His face was full of wrinkles, as if he was nearing the end of his life. Yurin City? It was the first time everyone had heard of this name, so they immediately started discussing it curiously. Sage King Feng Xiu, can you share some information? I Ching's eyes flashed. Sage King Feng Xiu's voice was hoarse and low. There's nothing to share. Yurin City is not difficult to find. As long as you can meet a human from the North Continent, you will know the location of Yurin City. That is the gathering place of humans from the North Continent. In the Tang-Chi continent, humans gradually changed after their glory and were replaced by the winged men. Now, the winged men are the dominant race, while humans and demons are struggling at death's door. This is not a secret. You will know once you enter Yurin City. Sage King Feng Xiu coughed violently as he spoke. His face was pale as he closed his eyes in exhaustion. All the Sage Kings nodded in realization. I Ching smiled coldly as his sharp gaze swept across everyone. Everyone, as you can see, we are weak here. It is difficult for us to make a splash with our individual strength. I don't mind telling everyone that the weakest race in the North Continent, humans, is stronger than us. In the Tang-Chi continent, immortal chaos holes are nothing to us Sage Kings from the Milky Way. During this period, the Sage Kings have either died or escaped. Less than 100 of us have survived. However, survival of the fittest is the reality. Even if we don't die here, we will die together with the Milky Way super black hole after 11 years. I Ching's eyes were bright with ambition. However, I can tell everyone with certainty that if we stay here, we will not die. Even if the Milky Way super black hole is destroyed we can still survive. Chapter 1423. Wandering Planet. I Ching's words caused everyone to be stunned. Even though everyone present was a Saint King, they had never heard of the words Wandering Planet. They looked at each other with question marks on their faces. Even the oldest Saint King, Feng Xiu, frowned. I only read about it in ancient books. Wandering planets usually have a few characteristics. First, planets are usually bigger. Because they often wander in the universe, the planet itself absorbs the energy of the universe and gradually becomes bigger. Second, wandering planets have rich spatial energy, or rather, they can absorb spatial energy. I Ching's red eyes swept across everyone coldly. Don't you find it strange? It is impossible for such a six-star planet to be swallowed by the Milky Way super black hole. Its energy level is too strong. Everyone nodded. This was indeed a big puzzle. Wandering planets are different from other planets. They need to absorb spatial energy to maintain their planetary life. This is a kind of instinct. The most concentrated spatial energy in the universe is naturally the black hole. The higher the level of the black hole, the stronger the spatial energy. The seven empires have calculated that the Milky Way super black hole is far from entering the decline period. Moreover, the speed at which it entered from the first stage to the second stage is completely illogical. We have not found the reason before, but now. I Ching's eyes flashed as he slowly explained. Everyone was enlightened. As Saint Kings, they were all in high positions in their respective empires. They knew a lot about the Milky Way super black hole and have been discussing why the Milky Way super black hole was weakening so quickly. At first, they thought it was because the Milky Way super black hole was too big. Later, they thought it was a coincidence. However, they did not discuss it in detail. After all, the second stage of the decline period had arrived, and no one could stop it. So, it is because of it. Some of the Saint Kings were indignant. If not for this wandering planet, how would they be in such a sorry state? There are always pros and cons. This is a crisis, but it is also our opportunity. I Ching said, everyone can see that there are many masters of the dark region here. Isn't it because of the thin spatial energy in the Milky Way galaxy? Here, with our talent, as long as we cultivate diligently, we can become masters of the dark region. This is not our limit. I Ching's words were very tempting. To these saint rulers, becoming the master of the black region was their lifelong goal. It was not only for strength, but also for their lives. Why won't we die if we stay here? One of the sage kings was puzzled. Could it be that the wandering planet is strong enough to withstand the explosion of the galactic super black hole? The explosion of the Milky Way super black hole was extremely powerful. Even the Black Region Master would die without a doubt. Moreover, the Tongqi continent was at the center of the Milky Way super black hole, so the explosion would be the most destructive. I Ching rolled her red eyes and said indifferently, "Of course I won't die. I've already said before that wandering planets have instincts." Instinct? I got it. The son of the heavenly dragon from the godly sacrificial empire suddenly realized, wandering planets need to absorb space energy. Once they enter the Milky Way super black hole, the space energy will gradually decrease. When a wandering planet has absorbed enough, it will be like draining all the resources of the Milky Way super black hole. After that, it will leave and look for other black holes. I see. Everyone finally understood. I Ching nodded. As expected of the son of the godly sacrificial empire, the heavenly dragon saint ruler is extremely smart. Although I don't know how the wandering planet will leave, it will definitely be able to leave before the Milky Way super black hole explodes. All right, I've already said what I need to say. I won't stop those who still want to leave, because what you'll lose is your chance to survive. With the speed of the wandering planet's absorption, the predicted 11th era doesn't exist at all. At most, it will be one era. The Milky Way will become cosmic dust. I Ching's words were like a bomb that exploded in the hearts of all the sage kings, cutting off their last hope. If they left, they would die. If they stayed, at least there was a chance of survival. If everyone doesn't leave, since we're like-minded, I hope that everyone can put aside all past grievances and work together on this wandering planet. I Ching's expression was solemn, and her eyes were bright. First, we have to survive. Only by surviving will there be hope. I suggest that we form a Milky Way alliance and advance together. Heaven and Earth Sacred Pillar Palace. Unknowingly, Lin Feng had already been here for 3 months. This was 3 months in the outside world. In the Heaven and Earth Sacred Pillar Palace, almost 100 years had passed. In the first month, Lin Feng had already grasped the volcano saber technique. In the second month, he had practiced the volcano saber technique until it was as pure as fire. Now it was the third month. Chi, chi, chi. Lin Feng brandished his saber in the void. Every saber attack was like a volcano erupting. There was no saber in his hand, but the saber intent was already deep into his bones. What was the heavenly Tao? It was compatible with the Tao of heaven and earth. Weapons were external objects. If one comprehended the heavenly Tao of the saber, everything would be a saber. That's it. Lin Feng was completely immersed in the world of the saber. Previously, when he was less than 300 years old, he already had such achievements in the saber realm and comprehended a trace of the heavenly Tao of the saber. This was enough to prove Lin Feng's talent in the saber. Even in the outside world, he would definitely be able to cross the threshold of the heavenly Tao of the saber in at least 100 years or 1,000 years. Here, with the help of guiding the improvement of the saber technique, it was naturally twice the result with half the effort. Boom! Lin Feng's clean saber attack was like cutting through the thin barrier in front of him. He stepped onto a new path. All the things that he could not comprehend before now entered his mind. Clang! A one-horned lightning beast howled ferociously, roaring like a real dragon. Chi! Lin Feng waved his hand, and the one-horned lightning beast came to life. With another wave, its claws roared with boundless power. With another wave, even the one-horned lightning beast's horn surged with lightning, showing its divine power. He had comprehended all 3 moves of the lightning beast saber technique. This is the realm of the heavenly Tao of the saber. Lin Feng sighed, his eyes bright. The higher the realm, the more thorough one's comprehension. In the Universe Saint Pillar Palace, he finally grasped a new level of power. Now, his saber technique had reached the immortal chaotic whole realm. With the lightning beast saber technique, its power was unpredictable. If I compete with Bai Tang again, I believe I can win without using any treasures. Lin Feng smiled slightly. Moreover, he could win against her when she went all out. Whoosh! Lin Feng looked into the endless distance and moved his head. His whole body seemed to have endless energy, and his every movement was filled with saber intent. With a smile, Lin Feng left the volcano and headed to the new treasure land. He was looking forward to it. What would happen next? Chapter 1424. I didn't have time to eat, so I had to start writing. I had to finish 2 chapters before midnight. Everyone, please wait for a moment. Around 2,200 hours in the first chapter, Xiao Xiao started working. End. To be continued. Chapter 1425. On this day, Xiao Xiao wanted to release a single chapter to give everyone her heartfelt blessings. At the same time, she wanted to encourage herself to continue moving forward. Xiao Xiao had been working hard, hoping to write a good book that everyone would like. The chapter of Blade Shattering the Milky Way would soon enter the Milky Way. From January 1st onwards, Xiao Xiao would try her best not to stay up late and update at 4 o'clock every day. However, treating procrastination was really painful later. I'll send it to you first to be continued. Chapter 1426. Middle Grade Heaven Rank. The first level of the Glory Treasure Vault contained treasures that were equivalent to low-grade Heaven Rank treasures, whereas the second level contained mid-grade Heaven Rank treasures. For example, the Lightning Kuei pot that had recently advanced, and the Moonstar Ruler that he'd obtained from the Cursed Devil region, yet had no use for. There are also low-grade Heaven Saint weapons, super low-grade Heaven Rank treasures, and special-class Saint fruits. Divine Beast Eggs, Essence with Spirit Seeds. Lin Feng looked around as he walked. These were basically not seen in the 33 continents. Divine Beast Eggs were rare in the 33 continents. Only in places like the Nirvana world with abundant heaven and earth energy could ferocious demonic beasts evolve into divine beasts. Ferocious demonic beasts were born ruthless and cold-blooded, but divine beasts were intelligent and could be cultivated by humans. Divine beasts were generally smarter and grew faster than essence with spirits. I have the top-grade Heaven Saint weapon, Black Lotus. It's enough. I have the Heaven lower-tier, indestructible Thunder Pearl armor for defense. Together with the Whirlpool body and the dark mid-tier mystery, it's better than a Heaven middle-tier armor. If my Thunder Dragon, Saint Chi, rises another level and reaches Zizhou, the 33 indestructible Thunder Pearls will rise another level and reach Heaven middle tier. The three most important Saint treasures. The only thing missing is this. It was the low-grade Heaven rank Magical Light Sun-Seizing Boots. But although the Shulo Tower is rare in the Heaven tier, they still have some. Moreover, with my current physical fitness, there are not many who can surpass me in terms of speed if I use all my strength. Lin Feng thought, instead of increasing my speed by a little, it is better to get a holy fruit. A mid-grade Heaven rank Saint Fruit. Saint Fruits only appear in the Nirvana world. A low-grade Heaven rank humanoid fruit is fought over in the 33 continents. But here, there are all kinds of mid-grade Heaven rank Saint Fruits. Basic, Aptitude, and Special. Pure Energy. There were 4 types of Saint Fruits. Basic, such as the common mid-grade Heaven rank humanoid fruit, could improve bloodline purity. Aptitude, such as the Ice Worm, could improve the water aptitude of the 5 elements. Special, such as the upper-grade Saint Fruit, Ancient Wine, had a 90% success rate of elementary Saint Chi fusion and a 50% success rate of mid-grade Saint Chi fusion. I need something that can directly enhance my combat power. Lin Feng knew what he wanted. Pure Energy type. My Soul of the Earth has just reached the 6th order. Even if I consume a high-grade Heaven-class fruit, I won't be able to reach the 7th order. But Holy Chi can. Due to the abnormal advancement of the Soul of the Earth is now at the 6th level, but the 3 Saint Chi are still at the embryonic week, Lin Feng thought. His Thunder Dragon Saint Chi and Dark Devil Saint Chi were currently at the 7th level of the embryonic week. But the fusion of Holy Chi required Holy Chi to be at the limit of a week. In other words, the Thunder Dragon Holy Chi and the Dark Devil Holy Chi not only had to reach the 8th level of Zizhou, but also had to reach the 8th level. This is it. Lin Feng directly took it. Time was money. Every minute and second in the cocoon grotto heaven could be turned into pure energy of the world and absorbed. Lin Feng would not waste the 3 days of training, even though it was not as crazy as it was during the first round of the competition. But the energy of heaven and earth was comparable to that of the Nirvana world. Every day was a real cultivation, especially since he could absorb the magic nuclei at the same time. His efficiency was not slow at all. 3 days. Time passed quickly. Under everyone's expectations, Lin Feng and the other 3 gathered again. The top 4 will fight for the championship of the upper and lower groups. Commander, he said seriously, the winner can enter the 3rd level of the Glory Treasure Vault and choose any treasure. In the upper half of the first arena, Goddess Wakaman versus Wu Daozi. Lin Feng sneered. He thought that the 2 battles would be held at the same time, but then he understood. They must want us to know the strength of our opponents in the championship battle. From the top 8 onwards, it would be a battle of pure individual strength. Take a good look at Goddess Wakaman's strength. Wu Daozi's voice echoed in his ears. Lin Feng looked over. A smile appeared on his round head. Wu Daozi entered the arena casually as if he was aloof from the world. But Lin Feng knew that it was not that he did not want to compete, but that he knew he could not compete. Goddess Wakaman. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He had always known that she was very strong. She was a top genius from the Immortal Pavilion and had amazing talent. I wonder how far Wu Daozi can push her. Lin Feng thought. It's finally going to start. The first battle is a heavyweight battle. Goddess Wakaman. My goddess is too beautiful. She must defeat that stinky Taoist. I'm so nervous. My palms are sweating. The ice crystal sacred realm was bustling again. Pairs of eyes looked at the huge ice crystal. Goddess Wakaman's support rate was quite high. Coming from the immortal pavilion, her extraordinary temperament made it difficult for people to blaspheme. Compared to Wu Daozi's silly and naive appearance, Wu Daozi was much worse. However, what martial artists valued the most was still strength. Clang! His sword was unsheathed. Wu Daozi was still barehanded, but his aura had changed. Like a kitten, he instantly became a fierce tiger waiting to attack. He was facing the strongest battle. The battle began in an instant. With a sword and a white robe, Goddess Wakaman condensed her sword heart. As soon as the battle began, Wu Daozi was already in a passive state. Just like Xue Xue's sword heart that day, having a sword heart was equivalent to having a sword world, a domain. The world of the heart, the domain of the sword. Sword heart. Lin Feng's heart trembled. If he faced Goddess Wakaman, he would be in the same situation as Wu Daozi, unless he condensed his sword heart. Defend. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Facing Goddess Wakaman's attack, Wu Daozi chose to defend. Restrained by the sword heart, he was like a spinning top, spinning constantly. His moves were firm, like an airtight ancient bell. Wu Daozi's expression was serious. When he was serious, his strength was quite impressive. What a strong defense! Lin Feng exclaimed. Shrouded by the sword heart, the world was filled with sword intent, but Wu Daozi was still able to defend impenetrably. This little Taoist from the Valley of Enlightenment had extraordinary combat intuition. He could always predict the future and find Goddess Wakaman's point of attack in an instant. It's similar to the ancient martial arts on Earth. Mind's eye, Lin Feng thought. Goddess Wakaman's attack was invisible and traceless. If it were him, it would be difficult for him to resist. But with the mind as the eye, Wu Daozi could block it. However, he could only block it, using defense as an attack to consume Goddess Wakaman's strength. Lin Feng knew Wu Daozi's tactics and sighed in his heart. There was an old saying that if one kept defending, one would lose. If one kept defending, there would always be a time when one made a mistake, and that was often the fatal moment. Goddess Wakaman's attack was faster and fiercer. On the contrary, Wu Daozi's face was paler. Cold sweat dripped from his forehead, and his reaction speed was gradually unable to keep up. Until blood spurted out from the sword, and a hole was broken in Wu Daozi's defense. Like a broken dam, the next was a flood. He lost. Lin Feng sighed softly. Updated at around 1800 hours. Not yet. To be continued. Chapter 1427. The Hongmen Sphere was a sacred power attack treasure. It directly attacked with the soul. Both parties' consciousnesses collided, and the winner would be determined by willpower. Although Lin Feng knew that he was not as strong as Goddess Wakaman in terms of strength, he believed that he would not lose to Goddess Wakaman in terms of willpower, even if she was a rare genius in the 33 continents. As expected, Goddess Wakaman's beautiful face revealed shock for the first time. She was absent-minded for a moment. Her white dress fluttered, and she quickly retreated, trying to distance herself. But it was not so easy. Lin Feng endured the dizziness and attacked again. The fourth move of the 7 limits, Hail, completely sealed off Goddess Wakaman's path of retreat. Bang! In the ice crystal sacred realm, everyone's eyes were wide open. The exciting battle made everyone not even dare to breathe loudly. Their blood was boiling, and all the martial artists' faces were red. They had already unconsciously clenched their fists. A battle of this level was rare to see in 10 years. So strong. They are really strong. So exciting. One hard and one soft, one saber and one sword. Everyone stared at the ice crystal, afraid that they would miss something. A.O. Jianwei's cold eyes kept changing. His eyebrows were tightly knitted together, and his teeth were chattering. It was because he hated Lin Feng to the core. At this moment his spine was cold. He seemed to have seen the future, the danger, and the terrifying prophecy. If this kid is not eliminated, he will become a great threat. Kill him. Boom, boom, boom. It was unknown how many attacks had been launched. The Hongmen Sphere gave Lin Feng a slight advantage, But Goddess Wakaman's willpower was also extraordinary. She quickly recovered. After a series of attacks, the saber technique was restrained by Goddess Wakaman's sword technique. Lin Feng's body was full of holes and blood. However, Goddess Wakaman was not in a good situation. The Hongmen Sphere's sudden attack caused her to retreat. Lin Feng's skin was rough and his flesh was thick. He was very confident in his ability to withstand attacks. However, there was not much time left. Let's go all out. He activated the Lightning Dragon scripture, and the Lightning Dragon Holy Chi that was beyond the first tier exploded. Lin Feng's strongest attack. Now, it wasn't the 7th level of Fetus Week, but Zizhou's 8th floor. The fruits of victory in the semi-finals were exchanged for a pure, energy high-grade Saint Fruit. He made a perfect breakthrough in the Thunder Dragon Holy Chi and crossed the Zizhou mark. Lin Feng performed the New Sea Breaker again, and its power was more than twice as strong as when he used the Dark Devil Holy Chi. Goddess Wakaman frowned slightly, but she did not understand, because Lin Feng couldn't hit her with all his attacks. So what was the use no matter how powerful they were? True, holy power. In the depths of Lin Feng's sea of consciousness, one of his eyes had already widened. Every attack had its own purpose. As expected, the Goddess Wakaman managed to dispel the violent power of the blade. However, this time, she spent a lot of effort and had just turned into a perfect shadow. Goddess Wakaman retreated. Suddenly, whoosh, a golden sphere emitted a magnificent radiance. Dragon Abyssal Pearl. Swish! Goddess Wakaman dodged. Then, another Dragon Abyssal Pearl chain came at her. It was as fast as a spark. Swish! 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 Goddess Wakaman dodged continuously, but there were a total of 9 Dragon Abyssal Pearls. When the 7th one came, the Goddess Wakaman had no choice but to block it. With the power of the Imperial Void Secret, it was extremely shocking. Clang! The Yu sword rang out. Goddess Wakaman's face was slightly pale, and her chest heaved up and down. The 8th one! Clang! The Yu sword was dented, and the Goddess Wakaman's mouth was bleeding. At this moment, the 9th one came. It hit the Goddess Wakaman's left arm, and the Yu sword flew out of her hand. Lin Feng's eyes widened, and the Ice Crystal Sacred Realm was also filled with exclamations. A swordsman without a sword. A great opportunity. Now, Lin Feng's Black Scorpion suddenly blasted out. But this time, the Goddess Wakaman in the void had completely changed. There was blood at the corner of her mouth, and the Goddess Wakaman's entire body emitted a holy light. She was like an angel descending, and her original otherworldly temperament was unleashed to the extreme. She was like a real fairy. Light, super first grade holy aura. Lin Feng's heart sank. He felt that the Goddess Wakaman's holy aura of light was even stronger than his Thunder Dragon holy aura. That was an existence of a higher level. Whoosh! The extremely bright light turned into a light sword. Goddess Wakaman's beautiful eyes seemed to be a little unconvinced. Facing Lin Feng's attack, she actually chose to take it head-on. Bang! Bang! In a head-on clash, Lin Feng retreated, his arm completely numb. What a powerful attack! Lin Feng was secretly shocked. Goddess Wakaman's strength was far inferior to his. She relied on sword techniques and holy aura, or bloodline. Good. Lin Feng's chi and blood surged, and his fighting spirit soared. The Black Scorpion changed again, and the crystal fragments condensed into the word demon. A powerful energy resonated with the dark demon holy aura. Lin Feng's eyes rapidly became like a demon's. There seemed to be a giant beast howling in his body, as if it was about to awaken. The demonized Lin Feng was even closer to a demon. Not only was his physical strength stronger, but his fighting spirit was even crazier. He could also use the 7 limits as he wished. It contained the Tao of Demons. Dong! Lin Feng had already put the outcome of the battle aside. He was not as smart as Wu Daozi, but this was how battles were. It might not be a good thing to think too much. He kept attacking crazily, although he was always at a disadvantage, but Goddess Wakaman was still a human, and a woman at that. She could be tired, injured, and exhausted. Chi, Goddess Wakaman's sword pierced through Lin Feng. The eighth tier of his titanium gray body almost collapsed, but Lin Feng did not care at all. After avoiding his vital points, he also counterattacked Goddess Wakaman. His white figure flashed, but in the next second, bang, the dragon form broke through Goddess Wakaman's defense. Again, Lin Feng was bathed in blood. Countless swords surged out from all directions, piercing through his skin. But Lin Feng only had demonic power and darkness left in his eyes. His blade fell, and he also heavily injured Goddess Wakaman. Injury for injury. Goddess Wakaman was already flustered by Lin Feng. She was extremely talented, and she had never experienced such a battle. However, Lin Feng had grown up fighting in the marketplace since he was young. Big brother Lin Zhan had once said that even if he lost, he would lose like a man and fight to the last ounce of strength. Fight to the last moment. Light of 10,000 swords. Goddess Wakaman's body was extremely dazzling, and endless light swords erupted. Lin Feng's body seemed to be penetrated by countless light swords. The eighth tier of his titanium gray body collapsed and scattered, and his titanium grade elements were exhausted. The difference in strength made it difficult for Lin Feng to escape defeat, but Goddess Wakaman was also at the end of her rope. Star Moon Ruler. Lin Feng unleashed the last of his true dragon holy power, and a ruler that emitted the light of the stars and moon flew out. Mid-heaven rank holy treasure. Lin Feng had never used it before because it was an assist-type holy treasure. But now, it was used as a hidden weapon. With the mid-heaven rank, it was enough to unleash the hidden weapon ability to the extreme. Goddess Wakaman, who had just released the light of 10,000 swords, did not expect Lin Feng to still be attacking at the last moment before he was killed. Chi, the Star Moon Ruler, shattered Goddess Wakaman's remaining defense. Almost at the same time as Lin Feng, Goddess Wakaman turned into a white light and disappeared from the decisive battle space. Brothers and sisters, please guarantee your monthly votes to be continued. Chapter 1428. It wasn't that she was tired from updating, but that her heart was tired. The low number of subscriptions made Xiao Xiao very tired, and she couldn't see the road ahead clearly. Wait for me to sort out my emotions. I'll update later. To be continued. Chapter 1429. His round head was leaning against a tree, and he had a simple and honest smile. Enlightenment Valley, Wu Daozi, top 4 in the Battle of Glorious Star. He was a genius expert who had caused Fairy Ruan Meng a lot of trouble. He was ranked 3rd in the 10 Great Sects, a super genius from Enlightenment Valley. He was known as the smartest person in the 33 continents and had extraordinary battle instincts. After the Battle of Glorious Star, he was ranked 2nd on the Glorious Star list. Later, because he went into seclusion, he was overtaken by Ronghua. Hey, Brother Blade Demon, Wu Daozi waved his hand. Brother Wu Daozi. Lin Feng smiled. He had a good impression of Wu Daozi. He wasn't one of those hypocrites in the Nirvana sect. Haha, what a coincidence, Wu Daozi laughed. Lin Feng nodded. I didn't expect Brother Wu Daozi to not go to Enlightenment Valley. Everyone knew that the disciples of Enlightenment Valley loved to comprehend the Tao and didn't like to fight. Joining the Glory Alliance meant that you had to fight. Even if you didn't like to fight, it would be difficult to avoid fighting the demon and monster races. After all, if you didn't provoke them, they would provoke you. You'll be eliminated if you don't take care of yourself. Wu Daozi shook his head. Of the 7 people in the top 8 of this year's Battle of Glory, 5 have entered the trump card army of the Alliance of 7. Your name, Blade Demon, is known throughout the 33 continents. If I go to Enlightenment Valley alone, I will become a laughingstock. Wu Daozi revealed a bitter expression. So, even if I don't want to, I have to go. Lin Feng nodded. You know about Snowdrift, Manzi, and the others. Wu Daozi nodded. They all broke through to the Nirvana realm. Originally, I was ranked 2nd or 3rd, but now... Sigh, I'm probably at the bottom. Lin Feng smiled. Wu Daozi didn't seem to be unhappy. He was looking forward to it, because he would soon become a member of the trump card army of the Alliance of 7. By the way, how are Goddess Wakaman and Ronghua? Goddess Wakaman has entered the path of glory. Even Nirvana stage experts want to enter the path of glory. After coming out, it will be completely different. Wu Daozi's eyes lit up. With her aptitude, she will have a huge improvement after entering the Nirvana world. I'm afraid the gap between her and me will only get bigger and bigger. But your brother Blade Demon. It's a pity. What's a pity? Lin Feng didn't understand. Wu Daozi looked at Lin Feng. Even now, I still don't understand why you gave her the right to enter the path of glory. When their eyes met, Lin Feng smiled. How do you know? Lin Feng was curious. Wu Daozi sighed. Brother Blade Demon, you don't know how fierce the competition is in the Glory Alliance. You have to compete for the positions of Elite Army, Ace Army, Captain, and Vice Captain. Although we are the top in the 33 continents, but in the Nirvana world, we are only at the upper middle level. There are too many human experts in the Nirvana world. Lin Feng was surprised. Wu Daozi said, the human experts who can survive in the Nirvana world are not only strong, but also have excellent bloodlines. With the innate conditions and the environment of the Nirvana world far surpassing the 33 continents, they're naturally talented. Isn't Ronghua strong in the 33 continents? Lin Feng nodded. Before he appeared, Ronghua was the strongest genius of the Blood Tower. Wu Daozi said, but he is now in the elite army and not at the top. He can't be promoted to the Ace Army in a short time. Swish! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He knew Ronghua's strength best. He couldn't be promoted to the Ace Army? Shimanzi, Snow-Blowing, Needle Demon, Shirtian, the four of them are now in the middle and lower levels of the Ace Army. Snow-Blowing and Needle Demon may be eliminated at any time. Wu Daozi's eyes were bright. Only Yixia has a firm foothold in the Ace Army, but that's all. If he wants to enter the highest level of the Glory Team, the hope is slim. Lin Feng sighed. The top human experts of the Nirvana world were struggling in the Glory League. Even with Yixia's incredible talent as a Saint Power Cultivator, he could only stand firm in the Ace Army. So, the champions of the previous Battle of Glory Star were all desperately fighting for. Wu Daozi said, because the difference between the champion and the runner-up is great. The champion can enter the road of glory and become a member of the highest level of the Glory Team. But many of the runner-up often fall from the Ace Army to the Elite Army and finally disappear from the public. Lin Feng nodded. No wonder the Blood Tower was so big in the 33 continents, but in the Nirvana world, it was so small. The other four superpowers were even worse. In the final analysis, the difference between the Nirvana world and the 33 continents was too big. Do you regret it? Wu Daozi asked. Lin Feng smiled. What is mine will always be mine. Goddess Wakaman was indeed stronger than me that day. She deserved to be the champion. How can I regret it? Ha ha ha. Wu Daozi laughed heartily. Blade Demon is really the Blade Demon. Everyone says you become a demon and kill people without blinking. In my opinion, you're much stronger than those famous righteous sects. I believe in your strength. It won't be a problem to stand firm in the Ace Army. In time, you'll definitely be able to break into the Glory Team. Let's work hard together. Lin Feng smiled. Of course. I don't want to lose to those geniuses in the Nirvana world. Wu Daozi touched his bald head. Although I'm a country bumpkin. Country bumpkin. A country bumpkin can also be very strong. Lin Feng smiled. Time passed quickly. Suddenly, there was a violent fluctuation. The Glory Realm opened, and a figure came out of the transparent glass cover. His face was cold, and he was wearing a military uniform with a blue bottom and black edges. His boots were blood red. It was the Glory Sergeant. Those who are going to the Glory 7 Alliances, follow me. Those who are going to the 7 Halls of Stars, wait a moment. The Glory Sergeant glanced at everyone and turned to enter. There were no superfluous words. Soldiers were like this. Their actions were concise and decisive. Let's go, Brother Saber Demon, Wu Daozi said. Okay. Lin Feng nodded. Following the other Nirvana experts, the two of them followed. After entering the Glory Realm, rich heaven and earth energy rushed towards them. Lin Feng felt that it was very familiar. White channels seemed to penetrate space. From time to time, there would be an uproar behind him. It was the first time for many Nirvana experts to enter the glory realm. Cocoon Grotto Heaven, Misty Land. Lin Feng followed closely and gradually walked to the end of the glory realm. In front of him was a layer of faint white film, flashing with strange light patterns. This is the first ancient seal. You can enter but not leave. Follow me when you're ready. The glory sergeant's voice was indifferent. If you regret it, it's not too late. The Glory Alliance can change your fate, but it will also make you lose everything and face death. What I can tell you is that the survival rate of the Glory Alliance is 12%. With that, the Glory Sergeant stepped into the ancient seal. Behind him was a group of stunned faces. It was indeed 12%. This number was too ear-piercing and shocking. Lin Feng smiled and was the first to take a step forward, crossing the ancient seal. Hua, to be continued. Chapter 1430. Today, I have already finished writing one chapter. Tonight, there will be at least 1 or 2 chapters. In the afternoon, Xiao Xiao will go and persuade her grandmother again. Filial piety is the most important thing. Please forgive me. Not yet. To be continued. Chapter 1431. To be continued. Chapter 1432. Yesterday, my daughter's fever scared me out of my wits. Furthermore, her nasal membranes are thin. Once she coughs, her nose bleeds. Yesterday, both noses bled together in the car. In the end, she was admitted to the hospital for observation. Xiao Xiao stayed up all night with her and has just woken up. She has to bring her daughter to the hospital to take her temperature and get in 4 drip. She will be back around 8 or 9 p.m. As long as she is not admitted to the hospital for observation, she should have time to write when she comes back at night. Thank you for your understanding. To be continued. Chapter 1433. After passing through thousands of miles of volcanoes, the long road seemed to have no end. After walking for an unknown amount of time, Lin Feng arrived at a snowy country. Snowflakes fell from the sky, turning into snowy figures. In an instant, hailstones fell, and the aura of the snowy figures suddenly skyrocketed. With snow as a mirror, with ice as power, Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly, blending into the snowy world. As the snowflakes fell on his face, it turned into a touch of coldness. He was completely immersed in this unique realm. Heavenly Tao of Saber, first arrival. This was a realm above the threshold, a sign that one had truly stepped into the Heavenly Tao of Saber. In terms of strength, it was the battle power of the Dark Region Master. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, a year had passed. To most warriors, this was just a blink of an eye. Even Lin Feng, who was comprehending in the Heaven and Earth Saint Pillar Palace, didn't feel anything. This was because time seemed to have stopped there. When one was focused on one thing, time would pass very quickly. Outside the Heaven and Earth Saint Pillar Palace, whoosh, Bai Tang, who was wearing a white spotted bee skin, suddenly opened her eyes. A demonic brown light flashed, and in front of her was a female figure also wearing bee skin. She was slightly shorter than Bai Tang and wore a light brown bee skin with 2 flashing horns. Sister Bai Tang. The light and pleasant voice came from the light brown bee skin woman. Bai Ling, why are you here? Bai Tang was slightly surprised. The light brown bee skin woman, Bai Ling, smiled and said, The people from the Bai Tan tribe are here. The chief wants you to go over. Why are they here? Bai Tang was startled. Bai Ling rolled her eyes and smiled. Sister Bai Tang, have you forgotten? It's time for us to go to Yurin City to exchange and buy resources. All right. Bai Tang smiled embarrassedly. Yurin City was the gathering place of the various human races in the Tengqi continent. It was founded by the northern continent's super expert, Emperor Yu. The human race would buy and exchange things that the tribe needed, such as heaven and earth fruits, treasures, and so on. The Bai Tan tribe and the Bai Luan tribe were located close to each other, and they were both part of the White-tailed tribe. Every time they went to Yurin City, they would go together so that they could look after each other. He hasn't come out yet? Bai Ling pointed at the universe sacred pillar palace and asked in surprise. Yeah, it's been a year and a half. Bai Tang looked over and was a little surprised. She originally thought that this young man from Milky Way Earth could stay for half a year. She didn't expect him to stay for 1.5 years. Normally, clansmen who had just passed a trial could only stay for a year at most before they couldn't bear it anymore. The further he went, the greater the pressure on his soul. Sister, although he's a guest, it's still inappropriate for you to let him enter the heaven and earth sacred pillar palace, Bai Ling said. I know. Bai Tang nodded, her beautiful eyes flashing. I'm just returning him a favor. Bai Ling shrugged her shoulders helplessly. All right, he should be coming out soon anyway. I'll help you keep an eye on him. Sister Bai Tang, quickly go to the chief's place. Don't let the Bai Tan tribe wait too long. They'll have to trouble you. Bai Tang nodded lightly. Inside the heaven and earth sacred pillar hall, Lin Feng was covered in ice and snow like a snowman. His saber was very slow. Like falling snowflakes, it was continuous and entangled. In a split second, his eyes shot out a bright light, as if a huge dragon had awakened. The saber aura became extremely fierce, shaking the entire ice and snow land. Along with the saber intent, it was like 10,000 feet of hailstones crashing down. Pung, pung, pung. Lin Feng's saber aura was extremely powerful and unparalleled. In a split second, it was like a riot of ice, but then it was as calm as snow. If an outsider saw this, they would definitely be shocked. Two different saber techniques had strangely merged together. It's in a few hundred years. Lin Feng let out a long sigh. He didn't have a saber in his hand. The saber intent just now came and went according to his heart. During this period of cultivation in the heaven and earth sacred pillar palace, it was simple and substantial. I finally managed to learn this snow saber technique. Lin Feng smiled slightly. It was very difficult. Just the comprehension alone took him 300 years. After that, he slowly studied the moves one by one. Only now could he completely perform the snow saber technique. Compared to the volcano saber technique, the snow saber technique's level was much higher. It has something to do with my life's natural order. If I were an immortal chaos whole, I might be able to comprehend it much more easily. Lin Feng muttered to himself. Little did he know that his current comprehension speed was already rather terrifying. In 3 months in the heaven and earth sacred pillar palace, he had stepped into the threshold of the saber heavenly Tao. In 1 year and 2 months, he had seen the first blurry appearance of the saber heavenly Tao. That was the saber heavenly Tao's first arrival. Apart from a few super geniuses, which Black Region Master hadn't cultivated for 1,000 epochs. Lin Feng hadn't even cultivated for 1,000 years, but he had already seen this point. It was truly shocking. How long has it been outside? 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years? Lin Feng pondered. In this Saint Pillar world where the flow of time had almost stopped, it was very difficult to determine the time outside. Although his talent soul was enough to support him and allow him to continue cultivating, there was no need for that. To fully comprehend the snow saber technique, I'll need to continue comprehending and practicing here for at least 1,000 years. Lin Feng was very clear. The saber heavenly Tao's first arrival was much higher than the threshold. If he practiced here for 1,000 years, it would take 3 to 4 years outside. By then, the entrance to the ancient myriad world secret realm would have been sealed. Moreover, just practicing and guiding the saber technique was far from enough. Actual combat. Saber techniques are easier to comprehend and break through in actual combat. The saber was a weapon of war. It was naturally domineering and lived through battle. Only battle could show the strength of the saber technique and deepen one's comprehension. It's time to go. Lin Feng glanced at the land of ice again. This place had left a deep impression on him. It had taught him a guiding saber technique, the snow saber technique. Although it was a very ordinary guiding saber technique, it was still of a high level. The Black Region Master's saber technique. It had taken him hundreds of years to learn it. This showed how difficult the snow saber technique was. I hope I have the chance to come back again. Lin Feng yearned for everything here. His gaze fell on the land of ice behind him. There was a patch of clouds, and he didn't know what secrets were hidden there. He was very curious. However, he couldn't pass through the land of ice and couldn't go any further. The ancestor of the white-tailed human clan was able to create the Saint Pillar. His strength is definitely not ordinary. I'm afraid he has already surpassed the master of the Black region, Lin Feng muttered to himself. For such an expert to be born here, the Tongqi continent has many secrets. Sighing softly, Lin Feng immediately left the Heaven and Earth Saint Pillar Palace. Whoosh, a light flashed before his eyes. He returned to the White Wheel tribe. Although the Heaven and Earth energy had weakened significantly, Lin Feng felt comfortable and calm. Unknowingly, he had already adapted to life in the White Wheel tribe. I wonder what an Xian is doing, Lin Feng thought to himself. He smiled and walked out of the palace. Oh, Chapter 1435. Walking out of the Temple of Heaven and Earth, Lin Feng found that there was a different person. The one guarding the door wasn't Bai Tang. Instead, it was a woman wearing a light brown animal skin. She was slightly shorter than Bai Tang and had a more delicate appearance. She had a white tail and 2 horns that flickered. She was curiously sizing him up. Hello, Lin Feng greeted with a smile. You are the Milky Way human who made Sister Bai Tang spend 10,000 years of merit points. Lin Feng. Bai Ling's pointed nose twitched slightly. Spend 10,000 years of merit points. What is that? Lin Feng was puzzled. Bai Ling's slender eyelashes fluttered, curling her lips. This is the Temple of Heaven and Earth. Do you think you can enter as you wish? Our people can only enter 3 times in their lifetime. Other people who want to enter the Temple of Heaven and Earth need to spend merit points to get the chance. Merit points are contributions to the tribe, which are given out every year. Bai Ling explained, Sister Bai Tang's merit points are not high. In order to help you, she has handed over all the merit points she has earned in the past 10,000 years. Lin Feng's brows furrowed slightly. Bai Tang's unsmiling face appeared in his mind. Although he knew that she was kind-hearted and treated people very well, he did not expect that she would be willing to help him even though they had only known each other for a short period of time. Where is Sister Bai Tang now? Lin Feng asked. She is receiving guests at the chief's place. Bai Ling's cherry lips curled up slightly. The Bai Tan tribe has come. It's almost time to go to Yuan City. Lin Feng let out a soft "oh." He had heard of Yuan City before. Well, when she is done, I will thank her in person. Lin Feng smiled. Then he said goodbye to Bai Ling and left the Temple of Heaven and Earth. The chief's stone room. The chief of the Bai Luan tribe personally received 3 guests from the Bai Tan tribe, a blue-browed woman in tight armor, and 2 young boys and girls with the same blue-browed eyebrows. Whether it was the Bai Luan tribe or the Bai Tan tribe, they were all branches of the white-tailed people and had the same characteristics, a white tail and a pair of horns on the head. Different branches often had different characteristics. Some were tall and strong, while others were skinny. Some had fair skin, while others had dark skin. The tribesmen of the White Tan tribe had easily recognizable green eyebrows, and the horns on their heads were shorter and thicker. Bai, I heard that your 2 children's aptitudes are not bad. The White Wool chieftain squinted his eyes and smiled kindly. My old friend mentioned a few words when he came last time. Today's meeting is really unusual. The azure-browed woman, Bai Yi, smiled and said, Zhanlong and Yingfeng are rare geniuses, and they bear the honor of our White Tan tribe. Especially Zhanlong. He hasn't reached adulthood yet he's already passed the tribe's trial of the highest standard. Oh! The White Wool chieftain's eyes lit up, and he was shocked. Even ordinary warriors can't pass the trial, and he passed it? The green-browed woman, Bai Yi, smiled. Barely. It's not that difficult. I passed it easily 100 years ago. The genius young girl of the White Tan tribe, Bai Yingfeng, slightly raised her small head, and her crystal-like eyes contained a trace of arrogance and confidence. The young Bai Zhanlong smiled slightly. The genius young girl, Bai Yingfeng, placed her hand behind her back and said proudly, The chieftain said that my brother is a super genius that's hard to come by in 10,000 years. Not to mention the people of the same generation, even the warriors who entered the North Continent to train are not my brother's match. The young Bai Zhanlong smiled faintly. It's not that exaggerated. We were just sparring and didn't use our full strength. Although his words were humble, the arrogance in Bai Zhanlong's eyes and face was obvious. Ha! The White Wool chieftain laughed heartily, and his eyes flashed. he praised. Indeed, the student has surpassed the master. With such a descendant, our white-tailed tribe has a promising future. Bai Yi smiled and said, so, this time, I'm prepared to bring them to Yurin City to broaden their horizons. Isn't this a little inappropriate? Bai Tang, who was standing beside the white-wool chieftain, frowned. It's indeed a little risky. The white-wool chieftain nodded. The more talented a genius expert was, the more they needed to build a solid foundation, one step at a time. It was very dangerous to let them leave the tribe and head to Yurin City. After all, the journey from the tribe to Yurin City was not short. It's fine. Bai Yi smiled. What's the matter? With my brother's strength, he can already roam the North Continent. The young girl, Bai Yingfeng, smiled and said proudly, even if he meets the four-winged people, he can easily kill them. Bai Zhanlong cupped his hands. Chief, don't worry. I have the ability to protect myself. The white-wool chieftain nodded slightly. All right, it's not a bad thing to go out and train early. Moreover, with Bai Tang and Bai protecting you, there shouldn't be a problem. Bai Yi smiled and said, maybe it's Zhanlong protecting us. The white-wool chieftain was stunned when he heard that. He suddenly smiled and said, if that's the case, that's even better. Haha, after coming out of the chief's stone room, Bai Tang brought Bai Yi and the other two to tour around the white-wool tribe. Although they were going to Yurin City together, the Bai Tan tribe was ready, but the white-wool tribe was not. There were many resources to be sorted out, sold, purchased, and budgeted. It would take at least a few days to discuss and decide. I haven't been here for thousands of years. Bai Yi's face was full of smiles as he glanced at Bai Tang. How is it? Has the white-wool tribe had any outstanding juniors recently? Bai Tang replied, Bai Jingxian just passed the tribe trial and got the title of warrior not long ago. Oh, Bai Yi said, how old is he? What level of tribe trial? Bai Tang nodded. 6,000 years old, ordinary tribe trial. Oh, Bai Yi smiled casually. Behind him, Bai Zhanlong and Bai Yingfeng also smiled. The tribe trial was divided into 3 levels: ordinary tribe trial, elite tribe trial, and the highest standard tribe trial. Bai Yi said, Yingfeng passed the elite tribe trial for a while, and Zhanlong doesn't even need to talk about it. It seems that our Bai Tan tribe is more outstanding in this generation of white-tailed descendants. Yes, Bai Tang nodded. They are indeed very outstanding. As they spoke, the 4 of them had already arrived at the battle stage. This was the most lively place. The white-wool tribe respected martial arts, and the tribesmen often compared their skills. That day, Lin Feng had defeated the white-wheel tribe's youths here. Bai Yi stopped and looked at the 2 youths fighting on the battle stage. He revealed a faint smile. Suddenly a white figure jumped out. It was Bai Yingfeng. Her small face was full of arrogance. Her appearance stunned the 2 youths on the battle stage. Before they could react, a white light flashed in front of them. Instantly, with 2 pa-pa sounds, the 2 youths' faces were slapped. Pung! Pung! The 2 youths were slapped out of the battle stage. Their faces were burning with pain. Ta! Bai Yingfeng landed on the battle stage with her hands behind her back. She snorted so weak. I am Bai Yingfeng from the White Tan tribe. Who wants to challenge me? Chapter 1436. Yingfeng. Bai Yi's expression changed. She was not the only one. Bai Tang's expression was even more unsightly. She watched as the 2 youths were whipped off the stage. It was as if the tail whip had lashed her body. Every single one of them had been taught by her. Come down, Yingfeng, Bai Yi shouted. At this moment, Bai Zhanlong grabbed Bai Yi's hand and smiled. Sister Yi, you still don't know Yingfeng's personality. She's arrogant and unruly, not like a girl at all. She likes to join the fun. It's rare for her to come to the white-wool tribe. She'll only come down after 2 rounds. Bai Yi pursed her lips and wanted to refute, but she didn't know how to say it. There were some things that the 2 kids didn't understand, but she did. Although Bai Yingfeng's actions were like a young girl's, doing whatever she wanted, but it was equivalent to destroying the competition. If she lost, she would lose face for the White Tan tribe. If she won, she would lose face for the white-wool tribe and cause a rift between the 2 tribes. But at this moment, she couldn't stop it. When the youths of the white-wool tribe saw their own people being bullied, how could they remain calm? Instantly, a tall and thin girl jumped onto the stage. White Will Tribe's Qi Ling will challenge you. Her delicate voice didn't last more than 3 seconds. In the blink of an eye, the winner was decided. The tall and thin girl's strength was worlds apart from Bai Yingfeng's. Similarly, she whipped her off the stage. Bai Yingfeng put her hands behind her back and slightly raised her head. Next. Me. Bang. Me. Boom. One after another. When 5 youths of the White Will Tribe were knocked off the stage, the atmosphere was suffocating. Among them was the strongest, by Jingxian. Among the youths of the White Will Tribe, he was the only one who passed the tribe's test. But he still lost. Although Bai Yingfeng was a girl, her strength was unfathomable. Even in the battle where she defeated Bai Jingxian, she didn't use her weapon. In other words, she didn't even use her full strength. Looking at the youths of the White Will Tribe, Bai Yingfeng and Bai Zhanlong felt a sense of pleasure. White Will Tribe, compared to the White Tan Tribe, they were far weaker. Sister Bai Tang, the people of the White Will Tribe lacked the sense of competition. Bai Zhanlong smiled and said to Bai Tang, "Our Bai Tan Tribe adopts a competitive cultivation method. The last one will be eliminated and their resources will be deducted. The stronger one will be rewarded the most. In this way, the tribe's youngsters will be more enthusiastic about cultivation." Bai Tang's face turned cold when she heard this. She was not embarrassed by Bai Zhanlong's lecture, but because Bai Yingfeng's actions could be said to have trampled the entire White Will Tribe under her feet. How could he bear it? However, it was also a fact that the youths in the tribe were not as strong as her. If she wanted to win against Bai Yingfeng, she would have to go on stage herself. However, if news of her bullying the weak spread out, not only would it affect her, but the reputation of the White Will Tribe would also be ruined. However, if she didn't go up and someone was strutting around her territory, what a humiliation. Damn it. Bai Tang clenched her fists, unable to make a decision. Is no one coming to challenge me? Bai Yingfeng's voice carried a hint of mockery and pride. She snorted, and her beautiful eyes continuously swept back and forth. When her gaze landed on Bai Tang, she smiled meaningfully. It seemed to mean, "Come on, me." Bai Tang bit her lips and shouted in her heart, but she could not bear it any longer. If she went up, then so be it. Even if she was criticized behind her back, she would accept it. Right now, the most important thing was, "At this moment, I'll go." A voice came from afar, causing Bai Tang to be stunned. That voice was very familiar, but it was not someone from the White Will Tribe, but someone who was only slightly weaker than her, Lin Feng. He had come out from the Universe Pillar Palace. Everyone's gaze converged. The 3 from the White Tan Tribe did not recognize Lin Feng, including Bai Yi. At this moment, she had already forgotten to reprimand Bai Yingfeng, and the focus of her gaze made her feel suffocated. This person was so strong. "You're not from the White Tail Tribe," Bai Yi said. Lin Feng stepped forward slowly. "I'm indeed not from the White Tail Tribe, but I'm from the White Will Tribe." "Why? Did you say that only the White Tail Tribe can challenge me?" This? Bai Yi was speechless. Bai Zhanlong said, "It's fine for you to challenge my sister, but it's not fair." "How is it not fair?" Lin Feng asked. Bai Zhanlong frowned. "You're obviously older than my sister." Lin Feng looked like a young man, while Bai Yingfeng looked like a young girl. One look was enough to tell the difference. "How old is my sister?" Lin Feng asked. 7,500 years old. Bai Zhanlong stretched out his finger and gestured. Lin Feng smiled. "I'm not even a fraction of her age." Whoosh, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Did they hear wrongly? Lin Feng was only 500 years old. What a joke. Bai Zhanlong's expression was a little ugly, and he said, "My sister is only a dark matter expert. Isn't it unfair to fight her with an immortal chaos hole?" Whoosh. White light flashed. It was the small success of the light speed law. Coincidentally, I'm also a dark matter expert. Lin Feng ignored the stunned Bai Zhanlong and walked in front of Bai Tang. He bowed slightly and thanked her, then jumped onto the stage. He hadn't been here for long, but he just happened to see the scene just now. Sister Bai Tang, the White Will Tribe treated him very well, so Lin Feng naturally wouldn't sit idly by and let the White Tan Tribe flaunt their power. Moreover, he was very clear about the strength of the White Will Tribe's youths. Compared to the white-tan girl in front of him, they were indeed a little weaker. "Where are you from?" Bai Yingfeng shouted. Lin Feng replied, "I'm from the White Wolf tribe. Come, I'll give you a saber." His words stunned everyone, especially the youths of the White Wolf tribe. They knew Lin Feng's strength, and now they also knew Bai Yingfeng's strength. Even if Lin Feng went all out, his chances of winning were less than 30%. But now, he didn't even use a saber? Bai Yingfeng was furious. She, who had always been in a high position, had never been ignored like this. With a shout, a treasured sword appeared in her hand, and the light horn on Bai Yingfeng's forehead shone brightly. The law of light, abundant and powerful light energy was displayed, and Bai Yingfeng's treasured sword drew a wave. At this moment, she displayed her true strength. The 12th layer of the sword heart complemented by a trace of the sword of heaven, and her strength wasn't weak at all. Bai Yingfeng's strength lay in her comprehension of the law of light. She completely suppressed the other youths of the White Wheel tribe. Bai Yingfeng's comprehension of the law of light had already exceeded the small success stage and had reached the large success stage. Her innate talent, the light horn, was even more perfect. Pairs of eyes were fixed on the stage. Seeing Bai Yingfeng's imposing manner, they didn't dare to look anymore. Just now, the youths of the White Will tribe were defeated one after another. Now that Lin Feng didn't have a saber, could he win? Bai Zhanlong crossed his arms and smiled with victory in his hands. Although Bai Yi was helpless, the admiration in his eyes was undisguised. Their White Tan tribe was indeed strong. No one was optimistic about Lin Feng. The difference in strength between them was very clear. However, the development of things was always unexpected. Lin Feng made his move. Chapter 1437. There was no saber in his hand, but there was a saber in his heart. Lin Feng's current saber technique realm was still very powerful, even without the help of the Chaos Cave treasure. His cultivation in the Universe Pillar Palace had allowed his saber technique to transform perfectly. When he fought with Bai Tang, he had not even reached the 12th level of Saber Heart. Now, he was already threshold of the Saber Heavenly Way. He had even touched the edge of the Saber Heavenly Way's initial arrival realm. His saber technique realm was even higher than Bai Tang's. Clang! A black saber appeared in the void. The invisible saber chi and saber intent turned into a powerful force. Lin Feng's saber covered the entire fighting ring. The group of White Will tribe youths gasped. What was that? Every one of them had comprehended a bit of the Saber Heavenly Way, so they were not unfamiliar with it. Threshold. That was the threshold of the Saber Heavenly Way. Bai Tang's face that had been strained all along instantly eased up. Even though his face was expressionless, yet a wisp of a smile arose in his heart, and the rock in his heart was suddenly put down. Fighting Bai Yingfeng with such a level of saber technique, they were not on the same level at all. How is that possible? Bai Yi frowned and looked at the black figure on the fighting ring. She was shocked. That human youth who came out of nowhere was not inferior to her in terms of power realm. Complete suppression. Bai Yingfeng's power level was not superior to Lin Feng at all. She was enveloped by the powerful saber aura. It was difficult for her to unleash all her power. She could not even get close to him. She was blasted off the fighting ring by the saber intent in a few moves. She could not resist at all. Sister, Bai Zhanlong's heart ached. He took Bai Yingfeng's delicate body and shouted at Lin Feng with anger in his eyes. It was just a spar. How could you be so heavy-handed? Heavy-handed? Lin Feng glanced at her indifferently. I just made her lose her ability to fight. She can recover after resting for a while. I don't think your sister is so weak. Just now, she attacked the people of the White Will tribe more seriously than this one. Glancing down the stage, there were a few youths with white wheels who had been struck off the stage by Bai Yingfeng. Many of them had clear whip scars on their faces. Their injuries weren't heavy, but it was rather humiliating. Therefore, he didn't show too much mercy. The White Will tribe treated him like one of their own, so he naturally had to repay them with courtesy. Moreover, after interacting with these pure and kind White Will tribe youths for so long, they were like friends. Seeing his friend get hurt, How could he just stand by and watch? You. Bai Zhanlong gritted his teeth. His previous demeanor had long since disappeared. He only felt that the pride in his body had been trampled on, and he had no face left. On the other side, Bai Yi had just reacted. His expression instantly changed, and he shouted, "Not good." Bai Zhanlong had already jumped up. "I want to challenge you," Bai Zhanlong shouted. His heroic eyebrows stood erect. Two white horns blossomed with a bright light, and a pair of eyes burned with raging flames. Stepping onto the martial arts stage, he unsheathed the treasured sword in his hand with a clang and pointed it straight at Lin Feng. "Let me tell you, our White Tan tribe is not easy to bully. What you did to my sister, I want you to pay it back tenfold." As he spoke, an astonishing sword chi exploded, completely unreasonable. Without giving Lin Feng any time to reply, Bai Zhanlong instantly used the brilliant light law. The two horns condensed in intense light, pushing the law power to the realm of large success, perfectly merging with the sword. The surging sword chi transformed into numerous needle-like rays that shot out rapidly. Heavenly Sword Dao, threshold. So strong. Bai Tang's heart trembled. Although she roughly estimated Bai Zhanlong's strength, after all, to be able to pass the highest standard tribe trial, his strength was even above hers. But when she truly saw Bai Zhanlong's strength erupt, her heart still trembled. The White-tailed tribe, such super geniuses were very rare. Not yet fully matured, yet he already had such strength. Once he matured, it was very likely that he would cross the boundary and become a white-tail warrior. Sigh. On the other side, Bai Yi sighed softly. She naturally couldn't control Bai Zhanlong and his sister. The more talented they were, the more arrogant they were, and the two siblings simply didn't listen to her. The sharper the blade, the easier it was to break. Even if Bai Zhanlong could win, the White Tan tribe's reputation would be lost this time. To act so recklessly in other people's tribe was really too much. If he were to lose, Bai Yi smiled bitterly and shook her head. That would be a ruthless slap to her own face. She would suffer a double loss. He should be able to win, right? But he looked at the martial arts stage and the black figure. She didn't have the slightest confidence in her heart. She was different from Bai Zhanlong, who was a newborn calf. She was much more experienced, but until now, she was still unable to clearly see the true strength of the black-armored youth. It was like a bottomless lake. For Bai Yi herself, such an expert, was not someone she was willing to provoke, because you would never know how many trump cards he had hidden and how terrifying his strength was. What a terrifying sword chi. Heavens, that's the threshold of the heavenly sword Dao. How is this possible? He's much stronger than that girl, just now. Below the martial arts stage, the White Wheel tribe's youths were greatly shocked. The strength that Bai Zhanlong displayed was rather terrifying. At this moment, clang, Lin Feng unsheathed his blade. His opponent's vigorous battle intent even contained a trace of killing intent. He naturally wouldn't sit and wait for death. Against this genius expert from the White Tan tribe, Lin Feng wouldn't have the slightest confidence if it was before entering the Universal Sacred Pillar Palace. But now, Volcano Saber Art. Lin Feng's guided saber art was simple and direct. It was like a volcano erupting with power. It was compatible with his Tao of strength, allowing him to unleash his strongest physical strength. Although Bai Zhanlong's strength was pretty good, his physical quality was his weakness. After all, he wasn't an adult yet. Needless to say, even if he was an adult like Bai Tang, his physical strength was far from being Lin Feng's match. Lin Feng's eyes were blood red like a devil's. He instantly released his violent battle intent. The aura of his battle experience caused Bai Zhanlong's heart to tremble. The dark demonic figure in front of him was as terrifying as a devil. Instantly, bang, the saber and sword clashed. Impossible. How can his strength be so strong? Bai Zhanlong instantly widened his eyes. He felt a boundless power instantly surging towards him. The web between his thumb and forefinger that was holding the sword turned numb. A terrifying force came from the sword, and even the power of the law was suppressed. The realm of the sword that he was so proud of was shattered into pieces. Pa! Pa! It was completely shattered. Just like Bai Zhanlong's arrogant self-esteem, it instantly turned into nothingness under the boundless saber aura. Bai Zhanlong widened his eyes in shock. He spat out blood and fell back heavily like a cannonball. The first strike. With just the first strike, he had suffered a crushing defeat. Bang! Bai Zhanlong fell below the martial arts stage. His face was ghastly pale as he looked at the black figure in the void. His heart was filled with fear. He would never forget this figure in his life. Today, he had suffered a crushing defeat. Chapter 1438. Below the stage, everyone was dumbfounded. The youths of the White Wheel tribe had yet to react. Just a moment ago, they were still shocked by Zhanlong's shocking sword intent, and secretly thought that the strength of this youth from the White Tan tribe was terrifying. In the next moment, they were directly chopped down from the sky by an unreasonable saber. Without any fancy moves, it was an incomparably unreasonable saber. The sword was broken, and the person was injured. It was a crushing defeat. So powerful. What saber technique is this? How can Lin Feng be so strong? Did I see wrongly? One by one, the youths of the White Wheel tribe were shocked, aghast, and surprised. Instantly, they burst out with incomparable excitement and jubilation. Some even clenched their fists and excitedly jumped up and roared, venting the anger in their hearts. Previously, they had already suppressed a bellyful of anger. Good fight. That's right. Let them show off again. This is the White Wheel tribe. How can the White Tan tribe be so arrogant and despotic? Brother Lin Feng, that's great. Love you to death. Brother Lin Feng. There was a burst of cheers. On the other side, Bai Tang also revealed a knowing smile. Although Lin Feng did not give the White Tan tribe face, but face was given by others. Face was lost by oneself. If not for Lin Feng, the one who lost face today would not be the White Tan tribe, but their White Wheel tribe. I owe him another favor. Bai Tang lightly shook her head. However, this favor was bigger than the previous one, much bigger. Even so, she was happy and satisfied that she owed this favor. Thank you. Bai Tang looked at Lin Feng and murmured softly. On the other side, Bai Yi also recovered from her stupefied state. She could only sigh in her heart. She often told the Bai siblings that there was always someone better than them. She should not be too proud and complacent. However, the two siblings boasted that their aptitude was outstanding and did not listen to her at all. I hope this lesson can make them remember. Bai Yi's beautiful eyes glanced at Lin Feng. Ripples in her heart shook. It was the first time she saw a dark matter expert. His strength could be strong to such an extent. Even I don't have the slightest chance of winning. Bai Yi clearly understood. His expression was complicated. If I'm not wrong, he should be a human from the Milky Way. When did the humans of the Milky Way become so strong? The outstanding bloodlines of the Tung Chi continent can't compare to them. Bai Yi frowned. His faith was shaken, and his heart was in chaos. It was a great victory. Lin Feng instantly became the hero of the White Wheel tribe. These youths worshipped him, and Tiger worshipped him the most. He originally studied the saber, and seeing Lin Feng's saber power reach such a level, he felt honored. Brother Lin Feng, can you teach me saber techniques? Brother Lin Feng, spar with us. Brother Lin Feng, how did you train your saber skills? How can it be so powerful? Surrounded by the youths of the White Wheel tribe, Lin Feng was not the least bit impatient. He patiently answered them one by one. His gaze fell on N.I. Xian, who was grinning at him not far away. He could not help but ask, "Aren't you coming to help? They are looking for you." Hero. N.I. Xian smiled. "You're also making fun of me." Lin Feng was helpless. Of course not. N.I. Xian's beautiful nose twitched. Her eyes flickered, and her sexy lips curled up slightly. It's a pity that I missed such an interesting battle. I heard from them that your saber technique has broken through the threshold. Lin Feng nodded. I learned a lot in the universe, St. Pillar Palace. N.I. Xian rested her chin on her hand. I also want to go in. There will be a chance. Lin Feng smiled. His gaze suddenly shifted to the distance. A familiar figure was approaching. It was Bai Tang, who looked straight at him and nodded. Lin Feng immediately walked over. I haven't thanked you for your help that day. Bai Tang gently nodded. Her beautiful face, with a hint of wildness, was no longer as cold as before. Instead, it was more amiable. "It's nothing." Lin Feng smiled. "There are some things that are inconvenient for you to do. It's okay with me." Bai Tang shook her head. "Even if I was on the stage that day, I might not have been able to defeat Bai Zhanlong. He is really strong." After a pause, Bai Tang gave a rare smile and looked at Lin Feng. "It's also ironic. The rare genius of the White-Tail tribe in tens of thousands of eras was defeated by you in the first battle after coming out of the tribe." Lin Feng said, "But for him, this defeat has 100 advantages and no disadvantages." Bai Tang nodded. "Let's see if he can figure it out." Lin Feng said, "Although he is young and impetuous, his nature is not bad. It could be seen from Bai Zhanlong's concern for his sister that a person who is willing to step forward to protect his family could not be bad. Not all geniuses treated others humbly. Geniuses always had the right to be proud." "I hope so." Bai Tang nodded. "Remember this defeat, and you can become stronger in the future. By the way, I will be leaving for Yuan City in a few days. Do you and Anai Xian want to go back?" Calculating the time, it was not far from the 5-year deadline. Lin Feng smiled. He had already decided, but he did not know how Anai Xian felt. "Sister Bai Tang, can I trouble you with something?" Lin Feng asked. "What is it?" Bai Tang said. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. "I want to go to Yuan City with you." Bai Tang was slightly surprised. After saying goodbye to Bai Tang, Lin Feng went back. On the other side, Anai Xian was chatting and laughing with the youths of the White Will tribe. She was very popular. Lin Feng smiled. He was not surprised. Compared to him, Anai Xian blended in faster. Not only was she beautiful, but she was also gentle and kind. Naturally, she was popular. Finished chatting, Anai Xian smiled at Lin Feng. "Yes." Lin Feng smiled and nodded at Anai Xian. The relationship between the two was a little strange. They were like friends, but also like family. They had wandered here together and were friends who had gone through life and death together. Sister Bai Tang will be leaving for Yuan City in 3 days. Lin Feng said, "I plan to go with her." "Oh." Anai Xian's beautiful eyes moved. She knew where Yuan City was. It was not close to the White Will tribe. Not only would it be dangerous, but if something happened, they would not have enough time to leave the Tung Chi continent and return to the eternal myriad world's secret realm. In other words, I don't plan to leave here, at least not now. Lin Feng smiled at Anai Xian. The Tung Chi continent was far more powerful than he knew. It would be difficult to become a black domain master if he returned to the Milky Way. However, the spatial energy here was abundant, and there was a natural advantage. Moreover, he still had 50% of his true dragon avatar in the eternal myriad world's secret realm. It was almost the same as his main body. Staying here would only bring him benefits and no disadvantages. "What about you?" Lin Feng looked at Anai Xian and asked. Anai Xian's beautiful eyes flickered. Chapter 1439. After thinking for a while, Anai Xian smiled. "I will advance and retreat with you." Lin Feng was surprised. "You don't want to think about it?" Anai Xian shook her head and looked at the peaceful valley. Her beautiful eyes were blurred. "After I go back, I don't know where to go. Although the Milky Way is big, there is no place for me to go. I might as well stay in this peach blossom spring and have peace of mind." Lin Feng looked at Anai Xian. He knew what she was thinking. As the holy maiden, they were responsible for protecting the child of the sacrificial altar. They were like puppets controlled by someone else, unable to do anything they wanted. Even after becoming saint rulers, they were still controlled by someone else. They did not have any freedom at all. Although the Milky Way was big, it was like a cage. Moreover, with Anai Xian's potential, it was almost impossible for her to break through and become the master of Blackfield in the remaining 11 eras of the Milky Way. She might as well stay here. As long as she could survive, there was hope for success. There should be many Saint Kings here, Lin Feng said. Anai Xian nodded. Saint Kings have a lifespan of 2,000 eras after all. Instead of returning to the Milky Way, it's better to stay here and gamble on whether they can break through in 11 eras. After all, the Master of Blackfield is not unreachable here. Lin Feng nodded and smiled. We might be able to meet the Saint Kings of the Milky Way on this trip to Uran City. And Aishin smiled. I'll go too. Okay. 3 days later, the group of 6 set off. With Bai Tang and Bai Yi leading the group, Lin Feng and Ai Xian, Bai Zhanlong, and Bai Yingfeng followed. At first, there was some estrangement. After all, the battle on the battle stage had just ended. But Bai Zhanlong and Bai Yingfeng were still young. They forgot quickly. Although the two of them were young and full of vigor, they were still quite respectful towards Lin Feng. After all, Lin Feng had defeated them with his true strength and not with any trickery. After traveling together, they quickly chatted and laughed, dispelling the estrangement between them. Sister Bai Tang, how long will it take to reach Uran City? And Ai Xian asked. Let's see how big the risk is. Bai Tang carefully observed the surroundings as he replied. There are several roads to Uran City. The closest one is of course a straight path. We'll reach it in less than half a month. We're now following the Chan River. There are a lot of detours, so it'll take us about 3 to 4 months to get there. Although it's not the safest path, it's not far from it. Then why don't we take the safest route? And Ai Xian asked curiously. Bai Tang said, the detour is extremely deep. It will take at least 2 years to get there. Furthermore, the so-called safest is just a ratio. It might not be accurate. Anything can happen in the northern continent. Even if we walk along the river, we might be attacked by the Chan River's Fey race and encounter the Black Domain Master. Basically, the path we're taking now is already safe enough. Moreover, even if we encounter some winged ones, it won't matter. Just treat it as training. Bai Yi smiled and said, as long as we don't encounter the 6 winged people. Behind him, Bai Zhanlong and Bai Yingfeng's eyes lit up. They were eager to give it a try. They had already passed the tribe's trial, but they had never really fought with the winged ones. They were looking forward to it. The battle with Lin Feng earlier had allowed them to understand many things. Battle experience was very important. Lin Feng and Ai Xian were much calmer. They had encountered the 4 winged ones many times. The winged ones did not have 3 heads and 6 arms. They had their advantages, but they also had their disadvantages. Just as Bai Yi said, as long as they did not encounter the 6 winged ones, it would be easy. The Chan River in the Tongchi continent was long and extended in all directions. There was a large number of Chan River's Fey race in the Chan River, which posed a threat to the winged ones. Therefore, it was safest to walk along the river. The winged ones rarely lived near the river. They preferred the mountains and forests. As for the Chan River's Fey race, they rarely attacked humans. Generally speaking, humans and Fey had a common enemy. Of course, this was not 100% accurate. The Chan River's Fey race would also attack humans. Humans might even kill each other. Occasionally, the winged ones would fly by. Usually, the 4 winged ones would lead the team. 10 two-winged ones would follow behind, forming a winged ones team. The same 4 winged ones might have a huge difference in strength. Usually, we distinguish strength by body length and wings. Everyone, remember this. Bai Yi explained, a 2-winged man's body length is usually 2 to 3 meters, while a 4-winged man's body length is 3 to 5 meters. The closer a 4-winged man is to 5 meters, the stronger he is. Wings are the bloodline of the winged ones. At the same time, they are their strongest attack. Therefore, the strength of their wings is almost equal to the strength of the winged ones. They are divided into 3 types: ordinary, excellent, and top-notch. They are visible to the naked eye because the 3 types of wings have different colors. Ordinary wings are what we see as fleshy wings. Almost 95% of wings are like this. Excellent wings. They're pale white with a bit of flesh color. Top-notch wings are transparent with a hint of white. Bai Yi said seriously, if you see a 4-winged one with transparent wings, you must escape immediately because they are even stronger than ordinary 6-winged ones. Lin Feng nodded. He did not know that there were so many differences in the winged ones. The winged ones we killed previously were all ordinary winged ones. Lin Feng thought to himself, this was normal. 95% of the winged ones were ordinary. In the North Continent, where good people mixed with bad people, there were even more ordinary winged ones. The more ordinary they were, the more they needed to train crazily to improve. All right, is Sovereign You really that powerful? Lin Feng asked curiously. Yes, Bai Yi answered. The North Continent looks chaotic, but it is actually a tripartite balance of power. The Winged Ones Frenzied, Mist Winged King, and Cool Strange Winged King have 6 transparent wings. They are known as the 2 winged kings closest to the Winged Emperor. The Chan River Demon race has 4 demon emperors. They rule over the Chan River Demon race in the North Continent. Among the humans, there is only one Sovereign You. He rules over the Yu race and built Yuren City. He stands tall in the North Continent until now. Don't you think he is powerful? Bai smiled. Lin Feng was shocked. It seemed that Sovereign You was indeed very powerful. Sovereign You is my idol. Bai Zhanlong nodded vigorously, his eyes bright. I hope that one day I can become an expert like Sovereign You and lead the white-tailed humans to rise and build white-tailed city. You can do it, brother. Bai Yingfeng clenched her fists and said. Lin Feng smiled. Where there was a will, there was a way. It was rare for Bai Zhanlong to have such a great ambition. It was indeed a good thing. Even if he was proud, it was not a big deal. This was the right of a genius. More importantly, he had the heart and was working hard toward his goal. That was enough. While he was thinking, suddenly, Lin Feng's heart trembled. A ripple appeared in his perception area. Swoosh! Lin Feng's expression changed. Chapter 1440. There were at least dozens of winged men. Enter! Lin Feng suddenly shouted. And I Huan, who was beside him, was the most familiar with him, so she reacted the fastest. She and Lin Feng jumped into the surging river one after another, as fast as lightning. Bai Tang and Bai Yi were startled. While they were stunned, they also sensed it and their expressions changed. They pulled the still confused Bai Zhanlong and Bai Yi into the river as well. However, their sensing speed was much slower than Lin Feng's. In the sky, whoosh. The black mass of winged beings flew past, dyeing the sky black. They did not stop and continued to fly past. They did not notice the 6 auras in the Chan River at all. The winged men had a strong sensing ability for creatures on land. However, in the water, the laws of space would be hindered and restricted. Moreover, there were many monsters in the Chan River. Even if they sensed it, what could they do? The winged men were not stupid enough to enter the Chan River and fight with the monsters there. After a long while, whoosh, 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 6 silhouettes leaped out of the Chan River with a splash of water. 4 winged men teams, 44 winged men. They are all ordinary winged men. Actually, we could have stopped them just now. Lin Feng's perception was very clear. He could even see the color of the winged men's wings. They were just ordinary winged men, so they were not much of a threat. The 2 siblings, Bai Zhanlong and Bai Yingfeng, were shocked. 44 winged men. Stop them? To them, who were inexperienced, everything was unknown. They only knew that this number was terrifying. There's a certain risk, but we can basically take them down, Bai Tang said. As experienced as she was, she knew the difference in strength between the 2 sides. The 6 of them were not weak. Although they were at a disadvantage in terms of numbers, they had many experts, so it was not a problem to take them down. However, they did not have time to sense it clearly. If they did not quickly hide in the Chan River, what if it was not 44 winged men, but 440? By the time they sensed it clearly, it would be too late to escape. Safety first. After all, we're going to Yuren City, not a life and death training, Bai Yi said with a smile. Lin Feng didn't mind. Fighting with these winged men would at most earn a few crystal cores, which was not very meaningful. It was different from outside. Here, the space was saturated with energy, and crystal cores were not worth much. Bai Zhanlong and his sister were still in a state of shock. This was the first time they had encountered such a situation. Bai Yingfeng stared at Lin Feng with her jet-black eyes and asked in disbelief, Lin Feng, how did you sense it just now? Lin Feng, your reaction speed is really fast. Bai Yi praised in surprise. Lin Feng smiled. Although the ability he gained from opening the 4th acupoint of his Heaven's Eye cultivation did not increase his battle prowess, it was extremely useful. His powerful perception had already saved his life several times. After this experience, everyone had a lot more trust in Lin Feng. With such a strong perception ability, the whole team would be incomparably safe. Even if they encountered a stronger wingman squad, they would be able to avoid them as soon as possible. Along the way, he would occasionally give Bai Zhanlong and his sister a chance to hone their skills. Lin Feng and the others watched from aside. Experience would not be gained for no reason. They had to do it on the spot. From the initial nervousness, it gradually became smoother. Bai Zhanlong and his sister gradually displayed their battle prowess, especially Bai Zhanlong. Although he had lost to Lin Feng that day, his strength was not inferior to Bai Tang and Bai Yi. He was truly a super genius of the Bai Tan tribe. The following journey might be a little dangerous, but it will be fine as long as we enter the area of Yuan City, Bai Yi said. It was safe to follow the river, but it was impossible to follow it all the way. Yuan City was on land. How long will it take? Lin Feng asked. About 20 days. Bai Tang said, usually, it won't be a big problem. After all, we're close to Yuan City, and the winged men rarely appear. However, there will be times when we are unlucky. Bai Yi smiled and said, now, Zhanlong and Ing Feng have considerable battle prowess. Even if we encounter a four-winged man with an outstanding bloodline, we can still compete with him. Bai Zhanlong and Bai Ing Feng could not help but puff out their chests. Of course, our luck usually won't be that bad. Bai Yi looked at Bai Tang and said, last time, we didn't even meet a single winged man. I'm just afraid that our luck won't always be that good, Bai Tang said. It was much more dangerous to travel on land from the water. Lin Feng had already experienced this before. There was no place to hide on land, and the Winged Men clan loved to hide in the forest. Walking in the forest was simply courting death. Instead, the vast and boundless plains were the best option. In the eyes of the Winged Men, there was no difference between a plain and a forest. The first day was peaceful. The second day was still peaceful. However, things did not happen more than 3 times. On the third day, they were attacked by 3 groups of wingmen. However, for the current group, it was easy to deal with them. Lin Feng did not do much. For the current him, ordinary 4 wingmen were no longer a challenge. The 4th day, the 5th day, the 6th day, after that, they would be attacked by a group of winged men every 2 days. It was because Bai Tang's prophecy came true that their luck would not always be that good. On the 17th day, they had already dealt with several groups of winged men. The most they had dealt with was 6 groups of winged men. Although it was a complete victory, it still took a lot of effort. We'll be there in about 2 days. Bai Yi heaved a sigh of relief. Although he did not suffer any injuries during the 17-day journey, he still felt some pressure. He looked at Bai Zhanlong and his sister. They were in high spirits and full of fighting spirit. Newborn calves were not afraid of tigers. This time, it's a little unusual. Bai Tang frowned slightly. Lin Feng nodded. According to Sister Yi, the closer we are to Yuan City, the fewer winged men there should be. However, it's the opposite now. There are groups of winged men almost every day, and there are quite a lot of them. Close to Yuan City was the territory of the Yu-Men. Because the Yu-Men would often come out to train, the closer they were to Yuan City, the fewer winged men there were. What's there to be afraid of? No matter how many of them there are, there's nothing to be afraid of. Bai Ing Feng puffed out her proud chest and said confidently. These days, she had won many battles, and her confidence was unprecedentedly strong. Yes, we're very strong. Bai Zhanlong smiled and nodded. Bai Tang and Bai Yi looked at each other. It did not say anything. Suddenly, look, an Aishin exclaimed. Lin Feng and the others were slightly surprised. They looked in the direction that Enai Xian was pointing at. It was a yellow area with piles of broken bones on top. The wind blew the sand up, making it look like a skeleton grave. It's the humans who were killed, Bai Yi exclaimed. Suddenly, Bai Yi's expression changed. He shouted, everyone be careful. There might be enemies. Everyone immediately became alert. Lin Feng turned his head and looked into the distance. His heart trembled slightly. A black light appeared in his hand. They're already here. Chapter 1441. 11 Four-Winged People. Bai Yi's expression changed. We're in trouble. Bai Tang's expression was solemn. Although the number of winged people this time was small, they were all 4 winged people. They were comparable to 8 winged people teams, or even stronger. In contrast, Bai Zhanlong and his sister had high morale. They were like newborn calves who were not afraid of tigers. They were not afraid of battle. We have a 70% chance of winning. And Ai Xian's expression was calm. The 6 of them were not weak, either. They might not lose to the 11 four-winged people. Bai Yi and Bai Tang also nodded and prepared themselves for battle. Although there was a possibility of injury, just as Ai Xian had said, they were not at a disadvantage in this encounter. Although there were few people, they were all elites. It's true that there are 4 winged people, but not all of them. Lin Feng suddenly spoke, startling everyone. While he was stunned, a loud and clear bird cry resounded in the distance. The 11 winged man warriors that were like fighter jets swooped down, followed by 10 four-winged man warriors. The 4-winged man at the front did not have normal flesh-colored wings, but pale white. Excellent bloodline, the 2nd grade of the winged people. No wonder. There would be skeletons of human experts here. At this moment, everyone completely understood, and their hearts turned cold. There is a huge difference in strength between 11 four-winged people and 10 four-winged people plus 1 excellent bloodline. A single excellent bloodline winged person was more than 10 ordinary winged people. Bai Yi and Bai Tang's faces turned green. They did not expect to encounter a white-winged person. This place was very close to the periphery of Yurin City. With their strength, they might not be able to defeat the white-winged person even if they fought together, let alone one-on-one. Before they could react, the entire space shook violently, and a terrifying aura enveloped them. The white-winged person had shown his power. His powerful spatial control directly sealed the entire area. Bai Zhanlong and his sister, who were confident just a moment ago, felt their hearts sink and their expressions changed instantly. The white-winged person's strength could be seen at a glance. Before the battle, everyone was already afraid. At this moment, clang, an intense saber light flashed, and streams of power flowed from the pitch-black saber. The soul-severing saber exuded an incomparable energy, and the blood-colored veins bulged ferociously, as if a demon had been awakened. Break! As Lin Feng roared, the entire space shook violently. A single strike was enough to break the white winged man's seal, displaying the full power of the saber. In the next moment, Lin Feng's saber technique exploded like a volcano and shot out with unparalleled vigor. It went straight for the leading white winged man. His movements were simple and skillful, and he pressed forward courageously, causing Bai Yi, Bai Tang, and the others to be shocked. There was only one person, but his battle prowess was unparalleled. How powerful! As a former opponent, Bai Zhanlong was deeply shocked as he looked at Lin Feng. Boom! Lin Feng faced off against 11 four-winged people all by himself. One of them was even a white-winged person. His ferocious strength brought with it an intense battle intent. With a single strike, he suppressed the auras of all the four-winged people. Truly powerful. Chi! Chi! Sharp-winged blades attacked like sharp blades cutting through space. Lin Feng was quickly counterattacked by the winged people, especially the leading white-winged person. Not only was his wing blades faster, but they were also more powerful. With an outstanding bloodline, the white-winged person was naturally not ordinary. Roar! A violent roar sounded like a bell ringing in one's ears. The space shook as sharp cold claws attacked from a front. It was the white-winged person. Behind him, countless sharp wind blades attacked. The 10 four-winged people were naturally not ordinary. Each of them was a genuine chaos whole immortal. Lin Feng was fearless. He condensed the power of the soul-severing saber, and his dark magic reached greater mastery with the enhancement of his bloodline, revealing the ferocious black hell demon. With a roar, he waved his claws and killed. Devour. It was the same move and the same attack, but it was countless times stronger than before. The saber technique realm was completely different. After stepping through the threshold of the saber heavenly Tao, Lin Feng's full strength was comparable to the white-winged people. In the fierce battle, another 10 four-winged people were attacking Lin Feng, but they were stopped by 5 other figures who arrived in an instant. Bai Yi, Bai Tang, Bai Zhanlong, Bai Yingfeng, and Enai Xian. Lin Feng was not fighting alone. Although the 5 of them did not have the upper hand against the 10 four-winged people, they were not inferior either. This was especially so for Bai Zhanlong. He was young, but his strength had already surpassed Bai Yi and Bai Tang. Coupled with the deliberate nurturing during this period, he was now the second strongest in the team. The pressure on Lin Feng immediately lessened. Volcano Saber Technique. Lin Feng continued to attack the white-winged people. He was evenly matched. It just so happened that his newly comprehended saber technique needed to be tempered, and his saber technique realm needed to be consolidated. At this moment, it was as if he had returned to the time when he was practicing his saber in the Universe St. Pillar Palace. The volcano saber technique evolved in an instant. Soon, it turned into a snow saber technique that covered the sky with ice, with snow as the mirror and ice as the power. Although the entire saber technique was not as proficient as the volcano saber technique, it was much more profound and powerful. Every saber move contained endless mysteries of the heavenly Tao and the essence of the saber. Once the snow saber technique was used, Lin Feng instantly suppressed the white-winged people. Initial arrival saber technique? Bai Tang had already discovered it and was shocked. She had also entered the Universe Pillar Palace before, so she was naturally clear about this saber technique. However, she did not have the time to observe or comprehend it before the time was up. This saber technique was too difficult. This was the guiding saber technique for comprehending the saber heavenly Tao's initial arrival. As already learned the initial arrival saber technique, Bai Tang fought with the four-winged people. Her full chest rose and fell rapidly, and her breathing was rapid. This was the initial arrival saber technique that not many people in the White Wheel tribe knew. Lin Feng had only entered it once. What terrifying aptitude and comprehension! Bai Tang was deeply shocked. The snow saber technique directly raised Lin Feng's combat strength to another level. It was like snowflakes falling and lingering. It was as tough as ice and as powerful as 1,000 caddies. One soft and one hard, perfectly complementing each other. The entire saber technique was a combination of yin and yang, sometimes fast and sometimes slow. It was a strange combination. The explosion of the saber technique caught the white-winged people off guard. Although the white-winged people's attack was strong and their movements were agile, but Lin Feng was stronger. Lin Feng quickly took the initiative in the battle. Lin Feng was experienced, so he naturally wouldn't waste such an opportunity. Under the attacks that were like a torrential downpour, he injured the white-winged man in one go and killed him decisively. A dragon without a head was naturally in chaos. The other 10 four-winged men only followed the white-winged man's lead. Following its death, the 10 four-winged men were terrified and their battle prowess was greatly reduced. Moreover, they had to face the fierce Lin Feng who joined the battle. A strong saber intent covered the area. The soul of the dark devil condensed on Lin Feng's body. Wherever the saber struck, there was only darkness and no light. Following Lin Feng's lead, a crisis was instantly resolved. Everyone quickly killed all the four-winged people, and the result was glorious. We won. Everyone looked at each other in high spirits and found it hard to believe. 11 four-winged people, and one of them was a white-winged person. They actually won? Shua, shua, shua. Everyone's gazes fell on Lin Feng, who was in the middle. Their gazes were filled with admiration. Because of Lin Feng, they could win. Chapter 1442. He took out the crystal-like jewel. The white-winged man's jewel was different from the ordinary winged man's. It was pure white with little ripples. The jewel was like a complete space world that contained endless laws and mysteries. Mid-level supreme grade winged heart. Baidi looked over. The value of one is equivalent to 1,000 mid-level ordinary winged hearts. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. It turned out that this thing was called a winged heart. What does supreme grade mean? Lin Feng asked. Winged hearts are divided into 3 levels: low level, mid level, and high level. They correspond to 2-winged, 4-winged, and 6-winged people respectively, he explained. Each level is further divided into ordinary, supreme grade, and perfect grade. Ordinary winged hearts are of average value. Only supreme grade winged hearts are valuable. As for perfect grade winged hearts, they are of the highest value. Lin Feng nodded. Perfect grade winged hearts should belong to the winged men with top-notch bloodlines. Ordinary winged hearts contained rich spatial energy. Even the low-level ones were better than the devouring vital pearl. However, the Tongqi continent did not lack spatial energy. Ordinary winged hearts had a certain value, but it was very different from the ones in the Milky Way. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He was tempted. What if he bought a large number of low-level winged hearts here and sold them in the Milky Way? In the Milky Way, every ordinary winged heart was worth a lot. Even the worst one was comparable to the devouring vital pearl and was worth 100 vital pearls. He had many treasures, although they might not be suitable here and could not be sold for a high price, but compared to the value of low-level winged hearts, they were much better. Moreover, the mid-level supreme grade winged heart in his hand was worth 1,000 mid-level ordinary winged hearts. If 10,000 low-level ordinary winged hearts were calculated at 100 vital pearls each, that would be 1,000,000 vital pearls. Phew! Lin Feng sighed softly. If this method worked, he would not need much. He would be able to make a lot of money with just one trip. Moreover, there are not many Sage King experts who can do this. Lin Feng thought to himself. First of all, there is only one Yuan city in the northern continent. According to the probability of warriors entering the northern continent, only 1 in 4. Secondly, to enter the northern continent, he had to find Yuan city. In order to enter Yuan city, one had to have sufficient wealth to purchase the elementary wing heart. After purchasing the wing heart, one still had to find the exit. It was too difficult. In particular, the number of exits in the northern continent could be counted on one hand. If no one led the way, the probability of bumping into the Wing clan was very high. Lin Feng nodded to himself. He had a great advantage. I'll be able to enter Yuan City soon. After purchasing the elementary wing heart, I'll get Bai Tang to bring me out and hand it over to the true dragon clone. Lin Feng's heart was moved. The more he thought about it, the more likely it was. The only variable was Bai Tang and the danger they might encounter while searching for the exit. But compared to the huge profits, these dangers were not worth mentioning. We have to be quick. There's not much time left before the Eternal World's secret realm closes. Lin Feng thought to himself. The closer it was to closing, the fewer people there would be. At that time, even if he wanted to sell it, no one would buy it. Actually, it doesn't matter. At most, we'll make less money. Lin Feng smiled. The true dragon clone would not lose the elementary wing heart. Even if the Eternal World's secret realm closed, they could slowly sell it in the Milky Way through other methods until they were sold out. The Milky Way was different from the Tongqi continent. The saints and saint kings there were in great need of spatial energy. After cleaning up the mess, Lin Feng and the rest set off again. After this battle, everyone was more careful. If there was a first, there would be a second, and if there was a second, there would be a third. However, because of this great victory, everyone was more confident. If even the White Wing clan could be defeated, what was there to be afraid of? Everyone was completely convinced of Lin Feng's strength. In the Tongqi continent, in the northern continent, other things were not important. Strength was the most important thing. The strong would only respect those who were even stronger. Even geniuses like Bai Zhanlong and Bai Yingfeng were convinced of Lin Feng's strength. Big Brother Lin, this Big Brother Lin, this Big Brother Lin, this made Bai Yi sigh endlessly. These two super geniuses of the White Tan tribe had always had their eyes on the top of their heads and looked down on everyone, but now they were completely convinced. In the next 3 days, they experienced 5 more battles. Each time, they were scared but not in danger. With everyone's strength, they easily passed through. 3 days later, they entered the territory of Yuan City. We're finally safe. Bai sighed softly and shook his head. This time, our luck can be said to be extremely bad. The last time she came with Bai Tang, it was a peaceful journey. There was not even a single battle. It's not bad luck. Lin Feng said, it's just a coincidence. What do we bump into? Bai was puzzled. Lin Feng shook his head. I don't know, but there must be something wrong. Originally, the closer we are to Yurin City, the fewer Wing Clan people. Now it's the opposite. It doesn't make sense to say that this is not strange. Everyone nodded. After entering Yurin City, I believe there will be an answer, Bai Tang said. Lin Feng nodded. Looking around, they could see some tribes and villages from time to time. The Yurin clan was different from the white-tail human clan. They had a large number of people. Although they could not compare to the northern continent's strongest nightmare thunder human clan. Because of the existence of Emperor Yu, they were stronger in terms of strength. To a tribe, a pillar of strength was extremely important. It's so quiet here, Bai Zhanlong said, because the experts of the Yurin clan also have to go out to train and fight. Bai smiled and explained, Emperor Yu believes in fighting. He believes that strength is obtained through fists, so the Yurin clan is extremely warlike. If not for that, the Yurin clan would not be inferior to the Nightmare Thunder human clan. Bai Zhanlong's eyes flashed. I really want to meet Emperor Yu. He is the person I admire the most. How can it be so easy to meet him? Brother, that's Emperor Yu. Who doesn't admire him? Bai Yingfeng pouted, her eyes flashing. When you become stronger, you might meet him one day. Lin Feng laughed. Everyone agreed. What kind of strength, what kind of level would they come into contact with? If their strength was comparable to Emperor Yu, they would naturally meet him. Everyone chatted and laughed, their fatigue washed away. After entering Yurin City, their hearts were at ease. They no longer needed to worry about the Winged Clan. Other than the northern continent's strongest mad Mist Wing King and cool Strange Wing King, the other Winged Clan people did not dare to pluck the fur on the tiger's head. Therefore, this place was the most prosperous place for humans to gather. It could be said that the northern continent was a paradise for humans. They continued forward. Under the lead of Bai and Bai Tang, everyone quickly arrived at the real Yurin City. Looking from afar, it was like a huge and sturdy castle that towered into the clouds, majestic and magnificent. All kinds of humans entered and exited the city gate with smiles on their faces. The traffic was heavy, and it was very lively. We're finally here. Lin Feng revealed a smile. Chapter 1443. Yurin City was filled with the remaining human races of the Tengqi continent. None of the human races that had survived until now were weak. Take the white-tailed humans, for example. They were below average among all the human races. Even if all the tribes were added together, their population was less than 1,000. However, were the white-tailed humans really weak? Relatively speaking, there are so many human races. And I looked around and sighed. Some of them were as thin as bamboo and were more than 5 meters tall. Some had brown skin and were covered in green scales. Some had 2 heads and 4 arms. Some had heads under their necks and were as strong as monsters. Lin Feng smiled. Now, the white-tailed humans looked the most normal. Their height and body shape were similar to humans on Earth, except that they had a pair of horns on their foreheads and a white tail. Yurin City is so big. Bai Zhanlong and Bai Yingfeng were also here for the first time. They were amazed. This was a huge castle. The top was completely sealed, and only the entrance could be entered. It was easier to defend against enemies. Looking around, there was a festive atmosphere. Yelling and shouting could be heard. It was like a prosperous market. Everyone, remember the rules of Yurin City, Bai said. First of all, fighting and killing are prohibited here. Violators are tantamount to provoking the Yurin clan. Bai said seriously, there was once a Black Domain master who thought he was strong enough to kill people in Yurin City. In the end, he was killed by Yurin Emperor. Everyone nodded. Yurin Emperor was definitely an intimidating existence in the North Continent. Secondly, you are not allowed to enter the inner city of Yurin City. Bai said, lastly, you are not allowed to steal, rob, or commit any crimes in Yurin City. That's about it. If you're interested, you could check it out. There are many signs on the roadside. Lin Feng turned around and saw a sign. There were many words on it. It was the common language of the Tung Chi continent. Lin Feng was familiar with it. He had learned it when he was in the White Wolf tribe. Looking further into the distance, he saw many crystal houses in the castle, each one different from the other. "Can we stay in Yuren City?" Lin Feng asked. "Sure," Bai Yi said. "You can become a resident of Yuren City by paying 10,000 winged hearts in one go. No matter where you live in the city, there is no time limit." 10,000 EXIN? Lin Feng laughed bitterly. That was 10,000 elementary common wing hearts, or 1,000 intermediate common wing hearts. "So expensive," Bai Zhanlong muttered. Bai Tang shook his head and said, "It's not expensive. If you live in a tribe, you will still have to be on tenterhooks. But if you live in Yuren City, you will be able to sleep peacefully. The order here is stable, and with the protection of the Yuren race, 10,000 winged hearts to buy a place to protect your life. It is very worth it." Lin Feng nodded. Bai Tang was right. No matter how well hidden a tribe was, it could still be dangerous. For example, the White Wolf tribe had migrated many times and many of their tribesmen had died. "Then where do you stay after paying 10,000 winged hearts?" Bai Feng asked curiously. "Scattered area," Bai Yi said. "In Yuren City, there's a plot of empty land specially prepared for these martial artists. They are given a number, and each person has about 15 square meters of empty land for cultivation." "Scattered area? Sleeping outside?" Lin Feng was startled. Bai Yi said, 10,000 winged hearts. "Naturally, this is the only treatment. If you don't want to sleep outside and buy a crystal house, the cheapest one is at least 100,000 winged hearts. Basically, you can't buy it. Most of the crystal houses are auctioned, and 100,000 winged hearts is the base price." Lin Feng was speechless. Buying a residence, 10,000 winged hearts. Buying a house was even scarier. The cheapest one, 100,000 winged hearts, was the base price. If these 100,000 winged hearts were placed in the Milky Way, that would be 10 million elemental beads. Lin Feng sighed. In this place, winged hearts were indeed cheap. Although the price was high, it was actually not high. Because Yuren City was only so big and there were only so many crystal houses, the demand was huge. Hence, the crystal houses were expensive. In the entire North Continent, Yuren City was the only safe place for humans to stay. Naturally, the competition was intense. Those human martial artists who lived in the scattered area, which one of them did not want to buy a crystal house? "Sister Yi, does our white-tailed tribe have a crystal house?" Bai Zhanlong suddenly asked. Bai Yi and Bai Tang looked at each other and nodded. "Yes, but..." After a pause, Bai Yi shook his head and said, "We can't enter that crystal house. Don't think too much. The sooner we complete the transaction, the sooner we can go back." Bai Zhanlong softly said, "Oh," and did not ask any more questions. Lin Feng looked at Bai Yi and Bai Tang and understood a little. "Then let's part here. We'll meet at the city gate in 10 days, Bai Yi said. "Okay," Bai Tang replied. Although they were both part of the White-Tailed tribe, their tribes were different. Every tribe had its own secrets that needed to be kept secret. After saying goodbye, Bai Tang and Bai Yi separated. Bai Yi left with Bai Zhanlong and Bai Feng, while Lin Feng and Ni Xian followed Bai Tang. "Let's go," Bai Tang said. Lin Feng and Ni Xian looked at each other, then smiled faintly and followed. It was obvious that Bai Tang had already treated them as his own people. Following Bai Tang, Lin Feng and Ni Xian walked around Yuren City. The first thing they did was to sell some of the white-tailed tribe's specialties, some of the fruits of heaven and earth in the surroundings, dug up crystals, and cultivated demon beasts. The value was ordinary, but it was better than nothing. It was not a bad idea to exchange for something useful. The tribe mainly relies on the warriors who go out to temper themselves. They often bring back many treasures for the tribe's expenses, especially the white-tailed warriors. Every time they come back, they are full of treasures, Bai Tang said. The white-tailed tribe had 3 white-tailed warriors. "Sister Bai Tang, there's something I want to ask you," Lin Feng suddenly said. "What is it?" Bai Tang was slightly surprised. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. "How far is the nearest exit from Yuren City?" Bai Tang pondered for a moment. "About a month's journey on foot." Lin Feng asked again. Then if we leave from the exit, can we still go back the way we came? This is a little difficult. Bai Tang frowned slightly, her white tail wrapped around her waist. There can be many exits, but there's only one entrance. Where it leads to is unknown. A little difficult, so it can be done? Lin Feng was overjoyed. Bai Tang nodded and said, using the locator talisman to determine the location, you can return safely. However, it's rare to see someone selling locator talismans. Whether you can buy one or not depends on luck. Okay. Lin Feng nodded secretly. To him, this was undoubtedly good news. After following Bai Tang for a while, the three of them chatted as they walked. Soon, they arrived in front of a magnificent and extraordinary building. Lin Feng raised his head and looked up. Above, there was a plaque that was painted in gold. Myriad Treasure Hall. Chapter 1444. The Thousand Treasures Palace belongs to the Thousand Treasures Auction House, one of the three auction houses of the human tribe. Although it doesn't have a strong foundation, its purchase price is usually higher than the other two auction houses. Bai Tang said as they walked. Lin Feng nodded. One of the other two auction houses must belong to the human tribe, right? Bai Tang nodded. The other one belongs to the Thunder human tribe. The Thousand Treasures Auction House doesn't have a strong background, but it has more than a dozen human tribes to share the benefits, so it has a stable position in Yuan City. Lin Feng understood. Auction houses had always been one of the most profitable places. Together with the purchase, sales, and auction commission, the auction house made a lot of money every day. To open an auction house, not only did it require a lot of funds, but it also needed a stable backer. As they spoke, the three of them entered the inner hall. Soon, the three of them were led into a bright and spacious room by an attendant. Lin Feng and Enai stood at the side, while Bai Tang began to sell some scattered treasures in exchange for wing hearts. In Yuan City, wing hearts were the most basic currency. Young master, don't you plan to stay here? Enai asked, puzzled. Yes. Lin Feng nodded. Knowing that Enai was still puzzled by his question, he couldn't help but smile. If a worker wants to do a good job, he must first sharpen his tools. If you want to stay here, you must first earn some money. Glancing at Bai Tang, Lin Feng said, although the White Wool tribe is good, you and I are only guests. It's okay to stay for a while, but I'm afraid we'll be criticized if we stay for too long. Enai nodded. Even if Sister Bai Tang didn't mind, it didn't mean that everyone in the tribe didn't mind. Young master, don't tell me you want to stay in Yuan City. Enai suddenly understood what Lin Feng meant. She exclaimed and bit her lip. But even a residence here costs 10,000 wing hearts. We don't have that much money. We don't have it now, but it doesn't mean we won't have it in the future, Lin Feng said with a smile. Young master, you mean? Enai vaguely understood, but she couldn't say it. Let's talk about the difference. Lin Feng did not hide anything from Enai and said, do you think that the humans of the Tongqi continent lack something compared to us? Enai Xian's pretty brows furrowed slightly as her beautiful eyes flickered. A chaotic cavern profound treasure. Lin Feng nodded. A race only has 2 or 3 chaos black treasures. It's too little compared to the Milky Way. Enai said, it's impossible to create chaos cavern treasures. Our chaos cavern treasures originated from the eternal myriad world's secret realm. They were passed down from generation to generation, and over time, they changed a lot. Lin Feng smiled and said, it's not that I can't make it. It's just that I'm not strong enough. Where did the chaos whole treasures of the myriad world's secret realm come from? There are 2 reasons why there are so few chaos cave treasures in the Tongqi continent. That's right. First, the source is small. Secondly, they are too strong. Enai frowned. I understand the first, but what does the second mean? Lin Feng said, chaos cavern treasures can be damaged. When immortal chaos cavern experts fight, ordinary chaos cavern treasures are easily damaged. What if it's a battle between black domain masters? Oh, Enai understood. Here, I could sell a large number of chaos cavern treasures to them. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. When we return to the eternal myriad world's secret realm, we can exchange these wing hearts, which contain space energy, for chaos cavern treasures. This round trip will make at least 100 times the profit. 100 times the profit. And Ayu's cheeks flushed red as she covered her small cherry mouth in shock. Although she found it hard to believe, she knew that Lin Feng wasn't exaggerating. Not to mention the Chaos Cavern treasures, just the value of the wing hearts and the void-swallowing elemental beads alone could generate 100 times the profit. When the time comes, we could buy a crystal house here and live together, Lin Feng said with a smile. And Ayu's cheeks flushed pink when she heard this. The speaker didn't mean it, but the listener did. Lin Feng also felt that his words were a little inappropriate, but this kind of thing would only make things worse. He could only laugh it off. Although it's difficult not to live under someone else's roof, it's always good to have a place to stay in Yuan City, Lin Feng thought. He was more used to relying on himself. Not long after, Bai Tang completed the transaction and obtained a few thousand wing hearts. It wasn't a lot, but it wasn't a little either. Let's go, Bai Tang said. Wait a moment, Sister Bai Tang. I also want to exchange for some wing hearts, Lin Feng said. Bai Tang was slightly surprised and nodded. Hello, guest. What do you want to exchange? The person who received Lin Feng was the same as the one who received Bai Tang. He was the manager of the Myriad Treasures Hall. He had seen Lin Feng and Niu early in the morning, each wearing a suit of armor. With his experience, he could easily determine the identities of these two people. They were from the Milky Way. Lin Feng casually took out a powerful low-grade Chaos Cavern treasure and placed it on the table, his eyes flashing. What's the price of this? It was easier to estimate the price by testing it from shallow to deep. This fire elemental low-grade Chaos Cavern treasure was worth exactly 1 elemental bead in the Milky Way. Fire elemental. Well, it's ordinary and not very useful. 100 wing hearts, the manager of the Myriad Treasures Hall said. There was a little disappointment in his eyes. He thought that the young man in front of him would take out some good treasure. He didn't expect it to be so ordinary. Well, after all, he's just a dark matter expert. What good treasure can he have? The manager of the Myriad Treasures Hall thought. Manager Ma, this is still a Chaos Cavern treasure. 100 wing hearts is too little. At least 200 wing hearts, Bai Tang said with a frown. The manager of the Myriad Treasures Hall shook his head. This Chaos Cavern treasure is only worth collecting. 100 wing hearts is quite a lot. How about this? I'll add 20%. 120 wing hearts. 180 wing hearts. 130 at most. 170. After some bargaining, the deal was finally settled at 150 wing hearts. The price was indeed not high, but it was enough to make Lin Feng and Niu overjoyed. They could see the incomparable joy in each other's eyes. This Chaos Cavern treasure was only worth 1 elemental bead, but it was sold for 150 wing hearts. One had to know that 150 wing hearts were worth 100 elemental beads in the ancient Myriad World's secret realm. 150 wing hearts was 15,000 elemental beads. Lin Feng was greatly shocked. This was too crazy. In the Milky Way, even the best peak Chaos Cavern treasure was only worth this much. This time, I'm going to make a fortune. Lin Feng sighed deeply. On the other side, Bai Tang and the manager of the Myriad Treasures Hall had completed the transaction and handed over 150 wing hearts to Lin Feng. After receiving the fire elemental Chaos Cavern treasure, the manager of the Myriad Treasures Hall looked calm. This kind of transaction was just a routine to him and didn't have much meaning. Is there anything else you want to exchange? Bai Tang asked. Of course. Lin Feng smiled. The manager of the Myriad Treasures Hall maintained a professional smile and was waiting for the next 150 wing hearts transaction. Suddenly, a light flashed in front of him, and a treasure filled with strong light elements landed on the stage. In an instant, the manager of the Myriad Treasures Hall widened his eyes. Chapter 1445. The manager of the Myriad Treasure Hall was overjoyed. Even Bai Tang's eyes lit up. Light-type, top-grade black hole treasure was worth 50 elemental beads in the Milky Way. Lin Feng looked at the manager of the Myriad Treasure Hall. The first treasure was just to test the approximate value. It could be seen that the humans of the North Continent mostly needed black hole treasures for the 5 superior laws of light: darkness, thunder, wind, and earth. Therefore, he took out a light-type black hole treasure this time. The top-grade treasure was suitable for black hole immortals and even black region masters. What would the price be? 10,000. No, 20,000 EXIN. The manager of the Myriad Treasure Hall looked at Lin Feng with a burning desire. However, Lin Feng shook his head with a smile and pointed at Bai Tang. He signaled him to talk to Bai Tang. He didn't know the price here, so he might as well give it to someone he trusted. Bai Tang was slightly surprised. She hadn't expected Lin Feng to trust her so much. Pursing her lips, Bai Tang didn't refuse. After all, she was the best at this kind of thing. Soon, she began to haggle with the steward of the Myriad Treasure Hall. In the end, the price was 36,000 EXIN. A treasure worth 50 elemental beads will become 6 million elemental beads after returning to the ancient Myriad World's secret realm. Lin Feng sighed. This was no longer a huge profit. It was a complete explosion. The previous estimate of 100 times profit was completely wrong. It was at least 10,000 times profit, or even close to 100,000 times profit. The transactions continued. Lin Feng didn't have many chaotic cavern treasures on him, but they weren't few either. There was a huge pile of them, and he exchanged them one by one, causing the manager of the Myriad Treasure Hall to be shocked. He wished for nothing more than to worship Lin Feng like a bodhisattva. His professional smile was now incomparably flattering. He looked at Lin Feng as if he was looking at a mountain of gold. Although he only got a 5% commission from this trip, it was still quite valuable. Bai Tang was completely numb. Seeing Lin Feng take out one treasure after another like a bottomless pit, she was no less shocked than the manager of the Myriad Treasure Hall. The price she negotiated in half a day was countless times more than the price of the entire White Will tribe. 1.02 million wing hearts. All right. Lin Feng accepted it with satisfaction. He didn't care about Bai Tang and the Myriad Treasure Hall manager's expressions at all. This was the result of him keeping it. If he took it all out, it would be even more terrifying. However, there was no need for that. 1.02 million winged hearts in the Milky Way, that was equivalent to 100 million elemental beads. It's enough to sweep up all the treasures in the ancient Myriad World's secret dimension. Lin Feng was very clear. Anai Shui also sold a small portion of them, but she didn't have many treasures on her. She only sold about 2,000 wing hearts. Even so, Anai Shui was very happy. This was also a huge sum of money for her. In another room of the Myriad Treasure Hall, the people from the Milky Way Alliance, led by Yi Qing, were also delighted. They were not stupid. Whatever Lin Feng thought of, they also thought of it. Among the 10 Saint Kings, the least exchanged for a few thousand wing hearts. The most, like Yi Qing and the son of the Heavenly Dragon, exchanged for more than 100,000 wing hearts. When we return to the Milky Way, we'll exchange all of these wing hearts for chaos treasures. Then, we'll be able to make a fortune. Yi Qing's eyes lit up. We have more than 600,000 wing hearts in total. Basically, we can sweep everything. The Golden Lion Saint King laughed heartily. When the time comes, we'll be able to establish ourselves in Yuan City. The son of the Heavenly Dragon smiled. The more people, the more power and wisdom there would be. The people from the Milky Way Alliance had their first taste of sweetness. After completing the exchange, they were now planning how to return to the ancient Myriad World's secret dimension. The problem is that we don't know where the exit is. Yes, it's not easy to find the exit. It's especially easy to bump into the Wing Clan. Stupid. Money makes the world go round. We don't know the way. There are many people who do. As long as we give them some benefits, they can lead the way. Yes. Take care. The manager of the Myriad Treasure Hall respectfully sent Lin Feng and the other two to the door. He was beaming with joy. Lin Feng was also very satisfied with the 1.02 million wing hearts. He had made a small fortune. However, it was only a small fortune. In Yuan City, the starting price of an ordinary crystal house was 100,000 wing hearts. 1.02 million wing hearts was not a lot. These wing hearts can only be considered as real money after returning to the ancient Myriad World's secret dimension. Lin Feng was very clear that if he could not send these wing hearts out of the Tung Chi continent, they would not be of much use. Although the location talisman is expensive, it's a loss to buy one for 10,000 wing hearts, Bai Tang said to Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled. It's okay to lose a little. At least it saves time and effort. The Myriad Treasure Hall belonged to the Myriad Treasure Auction House. There were all kinds of rare treasures. Although there were not many location talismans, there were still some. Lin Feng did not waste time looking everywhere. He directly asked the manager of the Myriad Treasure Hall to help him buy the location talisman for double the price. 10,000 wing hearts was not a lot for Lin Feng now. After 10 days, he would meet up with Bai Yi and the others and leave Yurin City for the exit. While they were talking, Xian's delicate body suddenly shook. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. Following Xian's gaze, his eyes brightened. There were more than 10 martial artists wearing the same armor as him. Among them, there was an acquaintance, Xian. Among the people of the Milky Way Alliance, the son of the Heavenly Dragon walked out in surprise. His eyes were twinkling. Young master, Xian's pretty face was a little pale. She gently bowed. Lin Feng looked at the son of the Heavenly Dragon. He was the young man that Xian risked her life to protect that day, the son of God's sacrifice of the God's Sacrifice Empire. It's great to find you, Xian. The son of the Heavenly Dragon walked over in joy. I thought you were dead. Jing, Ling, and I were very sad. Xian was slightly stunned. She glanced at everyone and asked doubtfully, why don't I see Jing and Ling? The son of the Heavenly Dragon looked sad. He sighed and raised his head slightly. They were killed by the Winged Clan. Lin Feng frowned. Suddenly, his gaze fell on the people behind the son of the Heavenly Dragon. Feeling a cold gaze, Lin Feng's heart trembled. He looked over. It was a burly man wearing a diamond helmet and lion head armor. He exuded a terrifying aura. Golden Lion, Sage King. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Lin Feng sneered. He had a deep grudge with the Golden Lion sect, so he was naturally familiar with the Golden Lion Sage King. He didn't expect to meet here. Oh, it seems that everyone knows each other. I Ching's red eyelids rolled, revealing an evil smile. He walked over. If I'm not mistaken, this should be Sage King Xian, ranked 197th on the Milky Way Sage King list, right? Hello, I'm I Ching. I Ching. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. A super expert ranked 24th on the Milky Way Sage King list. Hello. Xian bowed politely. The son of the Heavenly Dragon smiled. It's good to find you. Xian, come back. We have formed the Milky Way Alliance. Alliance Master I Ching has taken good care of us. With him around, we don't need to be afraid of the Wing Clan anymore. Come back. Lin Feng and Xian were both stunned. Chapter 1446. Lin Feng looked at Xian. Her delicate body was trembling slightly, and her eyes were filled with complicated emotions. She seemed to be worried about something, but she did not dare to do so. Xian, what's wrong? Son of the Heavenly Dragon asked in surprise. She's fine, Lin Feng said. His gaze swept across I Ching and the rest, and finally landed on Son of the Heavenly Dragon. It's just that she has her own life now. I hope Son of God can forgive her. Her own life? Son of the Heavenly Dragon was stunned. I Ching and the rest also did not understand. But in the next moment, they understood. Lin Feng gently held Xian's soft hand. Both of them looked at each other with an invisible tacit understanding. It was like a beautiful picture scroll that made people envious. Xian, son of the Heavenly Dragon's expression changed. His eyes flashed with resentment, and then he sighed. Xian, how can you forget the oath you made in front of God? Xian was shocked when she heard that, but the warmth from her hand seemed to give her strength. Looking at Lin Feng gratefully, Xian said, Please forgive me, young master. The Xian of the past is already dead. You, son of the Heavenly Dragon's expression was extremely ugly, and he was furious. As a saintess, how can you forget your mission? How can you live up to your bloodline and the empire that nurtured you? His words landed on Xian like a cannonball, causing her little face to turn deathly pale. Her palms were full of sweat, and her nails dug deep into her flesh. No need to say any more. Lin Feng directly interrupted and looked at Son of the Heavenly Dragon coldly. And I Xian's debt to the godly sacrificial empire was fully repaid when she sacrificed herself to save you that day. I was the one who saved her life. So now, her life belongs to me, not you. There was an uproar. Son of the Heavenly Dragon's expression was extremely ugly. You're wrong. Saving a life is a good thing. But how can you use saving a life as a condition to make others follow you? One of the Sage Kings said, "This blackmail is too much." Another Sage King said with contempt. Sage King Golden Lion snorted. "What a shameless person. And I Xian, come to our side. With the Milky Way Alliance here, no one can bully you." And I Huan wanted to explain, but Lin Feng grabbed her. "Let's go." "Halt!" The son of the Heavenly Dragon said furiously. Lin Feng sneered. In a split second, an invisible air shield enveloped Lin Feng. "You think you can leave?" Lin Feng smiled. In an instant, his eyes sharpened, and the power of the true dragon realm surged out, breaking the pressure with a bang. "Why can't I leave?" I Ching's expression suddenly changed. He rolled his red eyes and was about to fly into a rage. "If you want to make a move, please consider the consequences." Bai Tang, who had been watching from the sidelines, spoke up. Although she did not know about the grudge between Lin Feng and the Milky Way Alliance, she still chose to stand on Lin Feng's side. Hearing this, I Ching frowned, not daring to act rashly. In the Milky Way, no one could do anything to him. However, this was the Tung Chi continent, Yuan City. Even the Dark Region Master did not dare to violate the rules, let alone him. "Let's go." Lin Feng knew in I Huan's state of mind and pulled her away. Lin Feng did not care if he offended this group of people from the Milky Way Alliance. When he saw Sage King Golden Lion there, he knew that they were enemies and not friends. Sage King Golden Lion would not let him go. He would not either. Seeing Lin Feng and the other two leave, the son of the Heavenly Dragon gritted his teeth in anger. The Sage Kings of the Milky Way Alliance were also a little angry. "Your name is Lin Feng, right? How arrogant. This kid has a strong desire to kill. He has killed countless saints of the Golden Lion sect. Our hatred runs deep. Don't worry, Sage King Golden Lion. If we meet him outside, we will definitely capture him and avenge you and the Heavenly Dragon." Under the instigation of the son of the Heavenly Dragon and Sage King Golden Lion, the Sage Kings of the Milky Way Alliance had a common hatred for Lin Feng. I Ching's expression was cold as he said, "It's not difficult to kill him. When there's a chance, just do it. Now, we should hurry up and find someone to lead the way back to the ancient Myriad World secret realm to exchange for treasures." Alliance Master is right. This is the key now. We're going to be rich soon. "I'm sorry, young master." And I Huan's small face was pale as she apologized. Lin Feng smiled and said, "As long as you don't blame me." And I Huan shook her head. "How could I blame young master?" I just Lin Feng sighed slightly. How could he not know that Rome wasn't built in a day? It was impossible to change the thoughts that the divine sacrificial empire had instilled in Ni Huan in a short period of time. Therefore, when the son of the Heavenly Dragon said such high-sounding words, Ni Huan was stunned. "So what if I'm a bad person for you?" Lin Feng smiled and said, "Actually, you don't have to think so much. Since you've decided to stay here, you're no longer Saint's protector. The connection between you and the divine sacrificial empire was broken when you sacrificed your life for justice that day. The current you is a brand new you. You don't belong to anyone. Of course, that includes me." Lin Feng looked at Ni Huan, then looked at Bai Tang, and nodded gratefully to her. Bai Tang was not stupid. She could roughly guess the whole story from his words and expressions. "Thank you, young master." And Ni Huan bowed. Although she was still a little pale, she was much better than before. She also understood a lot in her heart. Lin Feng smiled. "By the way, Sister Bai Tang, I have a request. I wonder if you can take me to the exit now." Lin Feng thought of something and quickly said, Bai Tang was slightly surprised. Lin Feng looked at the 1,000 treasure hall. The people from the Milky Way Alliance had not come out yet. He said slowly, "I'm afraid that if we're late, someone will beat us to it." Following Lin Feng's gaze, Bai Tang understood a little and nodded. Okay, let's go now. Thank you. Lin Feng smiled. Since the people from the Milky Way Alliance had appeared, they had to be on guard. Lin Feng was very clear that although there were many treasures in the ancient Myriad World secret realm, they were nothing compared to the EXIN. This was destined to be a situation where there were too many monks and too little gruel. Whoever went late would be unlucky. Accompanied by Bai Tang, the two of them left Yuan City without any delay. As for Nai Huan, Lin Feng left 10,000 EXIN for her to stay in Yuan City temporarily and meet up with Bai Yi and the others 10 days later. Whoosh, whoosh. Only Lin Feng and Bai Tang were rushing at an extremely fast speed. Why didn't you hand Nai Huan over to the son of the heavenly dragon? Bai Tang asked the question in her heart. This guy is selfish. If I hand Nai Huan over to him, I'm afraid it will harm her life. Lin Feng said seriously, look at the person, look at the face, and look at the heart. Back then, when Nai Huan sacrificed herself to save him, he and the other two holy maidens had already escaped. But today, he's the only one left. If I'm not wrong, every time he encounters danger that he can't save, he will sacrifice the holy maidens around him and escape alone. Do you think I could be assured to hand Nai Huan over to such a person? Bai Tang was silent for a while and nodded gently. You're a good person. Maybe. Lin Feng smiled. The two of them disappeared into the darkness.